Peds explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
Mr. Vice President, I'm going off script again, I know, but I just want to personally thank you. We've been through some stuff. We've gone through some of the most complex military operations this country's ever conducted, and your steady hand and your leadership during those was a great source of strength for me. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your character. Thank you for your selfless service. Thank you for commitment. Thank you for being a mentor to me, Mr. Vice President.
It's called the swamp. And you know what happened? And you know what I did? A big favor. I caught the swamp. I caught them all. Let's see what happens. Nobody else could have done that but me. I caught all of this corruption that was going on, and nobody else could have done it. Did I get that one right? Every 4 years, we gather on these steps to carry out the orderly and peaceful transfer of power. Today's ceremony, however, has very special meaning, because today we are not merely transferring power from one administration to another, but we are transferring power from Washington, D.C., and giving it back to you, the people. For too long, a small group in our nation's capital has reaped the rewards of government, while the people have borne the cost. Washington flourished, but the people did not share in its wealth. This American carnage stops right here and stops right now. The forgotten men and women of our country will be forgotten no longer. From this day forward, a new vision will govern our land. From this day forward, it's going to be only America first.
This is a president of the United States who is a danger to the republic.
America first.
He knows he's an illegitimate president.
The oath of office I take today is an oath of allegiance to all Americans.
The great Trump recovery.
America will never be a socialist country. I will fight for you with every breath in my body.
Russia, Russian, pro-Russian, Russian, Russia, Russian, 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 the Russians. Russian.
Russia, Russia, Russia.
And I will never, ever let you down.
A dangerous virus is spreading rapidly in China, and U.S. officials are very worried that it could come here.
This is really the worst attack we've ever had. This is worse than Pearl Harbor. This is worse than the World Trade Center. There's never been an attack like this.
The time for empty talk is over. Now arrives the hour of action. What they're doing is using COVID to steal an election. Together, we will make America strong again. You know what it's about? Fraud, fake ballots. We will make America wealthy again. They are trying to steal the election.
Now, under the leadership of President Trump, we are fully realizing President Kennedy's prescient view of Special Operations Forces.
We will make America proud again. And watch, please, those mail-in ballots. We will make America safe again. And in millions and millions of ballots, their vote is under what they thought they needed. They're dumping more ballots in there, okay? And yes, together, we will make America great again. Thank you. God bless you. If we are right about the fraud, Joe Biden can't be president.
Congress, the chair declares the joint session dissolved.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Wednesday edition of the Devolution Power Hour. I believe this would be our last Power Hour before the election next week, if my math is correct.
Pretty crazy.
Wow. I hadn't even thought about that.
How
Felt like
correct my
we've been
math
talking
is,
about it.
or-
Well, we have been talking about it for 2 years, and now it's all of a sudden here.
Well,
I'm ready.
We've been talking about it for longer than that.
Yeah.
The first Devolution Power Hour was like August of 2021, or September of 2021, August or September of 2021. So it's been a while, but still. Full disclosure, guys, I am a little sick tonight. I'm kind of a lot.
You talked a lot of shit on Sunday about never being sick. So
This is like the first time I've been sick in so long. My daughter was sick for like a week, I swear. My son was a little sick, but my daughter was like pretty bad, and she was feeling good this morning. And then I was like, yeah, I'm in the clear. I'm good. And then it hit me at like noon. And so we'll see how the show goes. Might be shorter than normal, but we'll see.
No, you jinxed it.
Maybe I'll pick up some.
You got to get rid of them
wind.
kids. That's the problem.
Nah.
Bunch of little germ bags.
It's crazy. I mean, yes, they are. But I'd rather have more than anything. So wish I had more. But anyway, how's your guys' week going so far? You trash pieces of garbage, you.
Right. Yeah, Nazis. I mean, that's going to be our opening topic, I guess, right? But
yeah,
it's pretty hilarious that they're backpedaling from calling us garbage, but are going all in on calling us Nazis again. Like, guys, marketing has to get in on this. Like, there's got to be some consistent messaging on what brand of evil we are.
When you're calling names, you're losing, and they're losing. So I kind of like it.
Yeah.
I like everything I see coming from the Democrats and the media establishment signals disarray, signals expected loss and expected difficulties in the next Trump administration. They're either scared, they're panicking. I don't see the only thing I see very few things from the opposition that look organized and cause me concern. Now, there's some that really do cause me concern, and we'll talk about one of those later on tonight. But things like them calling us garbage, calling us Nazis, that article you sent me earlier today, the opinion piece in New York Times, that's straight. That's not signal. That's agitprop. That is straight agitate people, get people worked up about the next administration, and it's because they don't have anything else to address Trump in the situation that they're in. And the loss that's headed their way. So them calling us garbage, that's a good sign. I like it.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk a little more about that here in a second. I will say that there are a lot of people, I would agree with you, that are in disarray from the left. Like they don't know how to cope with the current situation. They've never been this maybe out of the loop or uninformed about whether or not they're going to actually get away with the steal. But there are some people like Mark Elias himself. He's to me, he's like signal for them because he's like their lead election lawyer and all these things. And he put out a video, or I think it was Ash who sent me the video today. We'll play it here because he's a little more like, ignore them, don't do this. And there's some weird shit going on in Pennsylvania. Like I feel like the fix might be in there, which if it's in there, who knows? Just get out and vote. Oh, I did vote today. I wasn't gonna vote. I wasn't gonna vote early. I was gonna wait till election day. But then as soon as I started feeling sickly, I was like, I'm going to go now. No lines, just in case. And I kind of like felt squeamish the whole time because, number one, they give you the option, at least in North Dakota, of doing it on a machine or on paper. And it's like way too many people over on the machines there. And then when you're done filling out your ballot, you just go put it in the machine and it's gone.
You put
it's
it
like,
in the machine.
It's just like it disappears. And no way of knowing what happens after that. But anyway, let's get to our first two sponsors and then we'll talk some trash. First up, we got, I can find it here. Yeah, we got CB Distillery. This is it, guys. CB Distillery's fall sale is on. Right now, you can save up to 40% on everything. This is your big chance to save for the year. If you're stressed out, struggling to sleep, or have pain after exercise, CB Distillery has a plant-based solution just for you. They've got natural solutions for everything: stress, sleep, pain after workouts, mood, focus, whatever it is. And it's all made with the highest quality clean ingredients. A lot of you have been raving about the benefits you've seen with CBD's products, especially when it comes to getting better sleep. So if you're looking for that, more calm, whatever it is, don't miss this massive sale, up to 40% off your entire order. Visit cbdistillery.com and use promo code RUMBLE. That's cbdistillery.com, code RUMBLE. Not available in Idaho, Iowa, or South Dakota. Why would that be? That's
some
weird.
sort of regulations. Who knows?
Well, if anybody's from Idaho, Iowa, or South Dakota and need a fix for some CB distillery, let me know. Next up, we got Field of Greens. We all have two ages, our true age and our biological age. Our bio age suggests how healthy or unhealthy we are inside. You want your bio age years younger than your true age. Let me tell you how Field of Greens is helping me do that. Field of Greens is an organic superfood fruit and vegetable drink. Unlike any other, it's serious nutrition. Listen to this. Field of Greens was approved for a university study that doctors believe may lower your body's biological age. That generally means better health. Each fruit and vegetable in Field of Greens was selected by doctors to support vital body functions like your heart, liver, kidneys, metabolism, and immune system. Only Field of Greens is backed by a better health promise, so at your next physical or checkup, your doctor will notice your improved health or you get your money back. Join me in better health today with 15% off and free shipping. Visit fieldofgreens.com. Use promo code JON. That's promo code JON at fieldofgreens.com. All right, guys. Okay, so by now everybody's seen the clip of Biden calling us trash. Maybe not. Maybe I should find it and play it. Jeez.
I wanted to see if that would be like pleasant coffee ASMR, was it? Or
No.
did it sound like I was peeing?
Kind of sound like you're peeing a little bit
closer to peeing. Yeah,
it's but I prefer that over you eating on stream. The other night in the Liberty and Kyle, this dude was like just chowing away.
I was hungry, man. I didn't think we were gonna have a 4-hour Liberty Den.
And it's one
eating
it's
on
one thing you're
stream.
like, very unprofessional, right? Very unprofessional.
Yeah, I mean,
It's what,
like if you got some cashews or like a little small snack, okay, but
It was chips.
and it's one thing. It's one thing to just like eat while we're watching, but then like he wouldn't stop while he was talking. We'd stop for commentating. And he'd just be like and say shit, just over and over. And then I started subtly dropping like, "Hey man, stop that!" And he just kept doing it. Just so disrespectful.
People forgave me anyway.
I haven't, clearly, and I won't. Anyway, okay, I found the clip. Let me pull this up. But thank you for agreeing with me, Kyle. I can already tell this is gonna be a great show, just because of that. Okay, here we go.
Or Puerto Rico, where I'm in my home state of Delaware, they're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. Or Puerto Rico, where I'm.
So this all stems from the joke from Trump's Madison Square Garden rally. One of the first guys up there, I can't remember his name.
Hinchcliffe.
John.
Some
Yeah,
Hinchcliffe.
Tony. That's what it is.
okay.
He's like a Rogan satellite guy, I think.
He's pretty funny.
Yeah.
The joke was pretty funny. Jokes are supposed to be funny, and the best jokes, in my opinion, are the ones that are most offensive. So, like, who cares? It's a joke, right? But the left freaked out, and like
They're just Puerto Ricans anyway.
exactly, they're just Puerto Ricans. But the left freaked out and made this big thing. Like Trump rally says despicable things about Puerto Ricans and whatever. And so that was a talking point for a while. Biden gets asked about it, and this is his response, and he calls Trump's supporters garbage. Couple things here. Number one, the reason I think it's kind of awesome that he said this is because it totally takes away the Puerto Rican comment. Like that, whatever ammo Kamala had because of that has been taken away because of this. The thing that's crazy to me, like I don't find this offensive at all. And so like seeing all of social media try to make it this big thing, I get it. Like Trump going out there trolling him with the trash. Like he showed up to his rally tonight in a garbage truck and he wore the vest thing during his speech, which was hilarious trolling. I love that. But like I've called them so many worse things than this. And like you were saying before the show, or was it during? I don't remember. I'm like out of it right now. Burning Bright, when you said their pivot is like, don't call them garbage. Let's just call them Nazis.
Yeah, well, and this is the sign of, like Kyle had mentioned at the start of the show, they're in disarray. Both of you did, I think. But an example of the disarray, people can be like, how can he go so confidently assert that? And to me, when you're tracking these narratives, we've been talking about on this show in particular for a while, that their narratives are not coordinated, right? Mm-hmm. To your point, actually, John, the Puerto Rico narrative was pretty coordinated, which I was shocked by. Like, I wasn't shocked that the media was lying about something or trying to make a mountain out of a molehill, or whatever the hell that saying is. But I was shocked that they thought the Puerto Rico joke was actually going to be this effective narrative deployment. They were like deploying the hell out of that thing. But the reason I thought that this pivot was funny and sort of chaotic, this comes days after they blitzed the news cycle with us being Nazis. Not just Trump being a Hitler analog, but we're Nazis. And now the media is saying, I just wanted to show, just to prove the point you just made up, before you show the Trump thing, John, if you want to share my screen.
I'm just going to show it in the background, so.
All right. The media was running with this Puerto Rico narrative for the first half of the week, and then they pivoted to, here we go. Puerto Rico fallout spreading like wildfire. They're even seeding in like which states they want to use this as a narrative to steal, right? Puerto Ricans are the key to Pennsylvania. Give me a fucking break, right? And then they go to this, where they're pissed over Biden. Because they're doing it, they figured out exactly what you said, John, that they know they lost all the narrative ammo in the room. And to normie Democrats don't even seem to know what to do right now. Because it's almost like a few days ago, they were like, yeah, let's get on board with the everyone's a Nazi thing again. But now we're supposed to say, oh, we don't think they're actually garbage. It's just completely discordant messaging.
Yeah, that article about the Puerto Ricans being so consequential to Pennsylvania makes me giggle a bit, because I saw another headline today, I think Politico, or maybe it was Axios, that said Democrats concerned about black voter turnout lagging behind thus far in the election cycle. I'm supposed to believe that Kamala is winning with Puerto Ricans, but losing with the black community in Pennsylvania over a joke about garbage, I guess.
Like how many Puerto Ricans are in Pennsylvania?
I don't even understand why they were.
I don't know, but this is the kind of story that goes viral and occupies the news cycle for 24 to 48 hours, then fades away. Yeah. It's like we've seen so many examples of this, but I do think right now in the time frame we're in, the proximity to the election, the other news stories that are out there that are net negatives for the Democrats and for the media, because there are some media specific stories out there that are very bad, such as, you recall, like 24, 48 hours ago, the media cycle was obsessed with themselves and how they were either quitting in protest because their newspaper wasn't endorsing a candidate at all, or right. There was this big scandal within the media where they were attacking each other, and also bloviating about how important they are, their self-obsession. But I think that like the time period we're in, it's maximum output in the information news cycle. And so stories like this about garbage and these jokes and everything, they take up more of the bandwidth, which crowds out other stories that are less favorable. And I think that's one tactic that sometimes is difficult to perceive when you're in the midst of it, is that sometimes I think they promote a bunch of news stories that crowd out other ones that are net negatives for them, as a tactic. Like, okay, you guys, we don't want you focusing on how bad this other thing is, so we're going to feed you something very clickbaity, such as this garbage man story. Doesn't mean it doesn't matter. Trump team did a great job taking advantage of it narratively, and they won out on it. So it's another big fail for them. By the way, I'm really impressed with how quickly Trump's team was able to source a garbage truck that was emblazoned with his logo, get the vest, like everything that they coordinated in response to this was top tier. And if this wasn't some pre-planned thing, which I'm open to that idea of it being a setup all along, then it shows that Trump's team is so quick to react to the battlefield, come up with a game plan, enact that game plan, execute it, and have so much fun with seemingly little bitty stories that are, it's like a spit wad. It's a silly food fight that the Democrats are trying to draw him into, and he's instantly turned it into a big narrative win and a mimetic win. That'll, it's not just narrative; it's mimetic. This imagery that he keeps on being able to push along with these narrative wins helps cement that narrative win in the American people's mind, and it reinforces the idea that you can't stop the Trump train, that all the momentum is with Trump team right now. And it takes away the wind out of Kamala's sails, and down ballot sales.
Yeah, it's kind of funny too that they tried so hard to make this whole garbage thing a scandal, like the Puerto Rican joke, whatever. That's the only ammo they've had. Like, they thought that was their ammo. It wasn't even something Trump said. It was something a comedian said at a rally, and they're like, okay, this is it. We finally got, like, that's how good of a campaign Trump has been running, that their like focal point was made up Nazi stuff and a joke somebody else told at his rally. And honestly, it's like, it was such a fitting joke too. The Biden administration, they actually sued Puerto Rico over the amount of garbage they had there, like that toxic shit it was doing. Like, that's a real thing. You can look that up. They actually sued Puerto Rico back in like 2022 or something about the massive garbage problem that they had on the island. Like, it's a real thing. And 'cause a lot of the money that's gone there to help them clean up the garbage has been embezzled and stolen. There's been people arrested down there because of it. So, like, it literally is an island full of garbage. The joke was spot on. But anyway, they're going to try to use this. They're going to say, like, all the Puerto Ricans in the country moved to Pennsylvania overnight, and that's why they
that's what's hilarious. I was looking through that Politico article, and I was like, and I'm always looking for it for brief items and just for general media research. And today I think there's only one or two in their top 5 most popular articles on Politico that are about this. But yesterday it was 4 of the top 5 were about the Puerto Rico thing and how that was going to change the vote. We know that's not true, right? The Pennsylvania thing, Puerto Rico. What more gives me sort of inverse confidence is that they thought this would be enough of a narrative to paper over whatever they're going to attempt to do next week. And it's like, this is not the story, guys. There's other stories you could try to go with, and Pennsylvanian Ricans being mad is not going to dwarf what most Americans see as the most populist campaign ever run.
Well, it's crazy. So think of the stories they've run in the past like 2 weeks. Like, they're big stories. They're October surprise stories. You've had the woman come out and say that Trump groped her, 20-year-old story, whatever. You had the Kelly story where Trump is literally Hitler and wants Hitler's generals. You had this thing kind of, Trump's racist. Look at this Puerto Rican joke at a rally.
The MSG Nazi rally.
Yep. There's a book that came out today recently, like the last couple days, talking about Trump's business and how Trump's businesses made $1.7 billion off the American taxpayer while he was in office. Like, where'd that book come from? I can't wait to read that and see how totally bullshit it is. They don't have anything solid. They're just doing reruns. Trump racist, Trump pedophile, rapist, Trump Hitler, Trump corrupt. They got nothing new and nothing solid. I was just gonna say, have you guys seen the video of him explaining why he's wearing the vest? Because this is so funny.
I don't think so.
I haven't.
Oh my gosh. Okay, we gotta watch this.
And then I got in the car and I'm driving over here and I have this still on. And I come into the arena and I say, where's my jacket? I want to get out of this thing. And they said, it would be unbelievable if you could wear it on stage. I said, and I said, no way. I got 25,000 people standing outside. I got all these people here. There's no way I'm wearing it on stage. They said, oh, okay, sir. I said, get me my jacket. But if you did, it actually makes you look thinner. I said, oh. And they got me. I said, I want to wear it on stage. When they said I look thinner, I said, in that case, I'll wear it on stage. I may never wear a blue jacket again. I may go. I may go in this. I said that. That was the word. That was the key. Sir, you look thinner. So, anyways.
He's so funny.
Man, part of what I was thinking about earlier that clip really exemplifies is, I'm sure you saw the meme. It is a meme. You don't have to make memes now about it, right? Trump is just fully embracing, as Kyle said earlier, the mimetic nature of this, right? It comes on the heels of the McDonald's deployment, which was super mimetic. So now you're seeing the, we're going back to the Bush and Obama era where every American, even Trump, has to work 2 jobs to make ends meet. And they got him, But what I thought was kind of funny about that, and speaks to the appeal of Donald Trump, that I know the deep state knows what his appeal is, but a lot of elitist lefties, they really don't get it. I see these people on my normie feed all the time, these journalists and everything. The ones who really think they're smarter than all of us, and they think MAGA's a bunch of idiot chuds, don't understand anything.
Generally.
They think that Trump has pulled the wool over MAGA's eyes because they think that MAGA doesn't seem to recognize that Trump is not a middle-class, blue-collar guy and that he's a billionaire. What they don't get is that Trump's support base knows that Trump doesn't have to work at McDonald's or do the garbage truck thing, but the easy manner with which Trump is doing these things, it comes off so genuinely to normal Americans that he is not making fun of them. He is saying, these are the Americans that I love, and these are the Americans that they hate. The garbage truck guy knows that Donald Trump doesn't have to work this way, right? That's not what it's about. But the elitist left thinks that Trump has somehow convinced all of his supporters he's this blue-collar guy. That's not it. He's just convinced us that he hates you and that you hate him, and that's plenty for his support base to get behind.
I don't even think he's not doing it to show that he can, or he's doing it to troll them. Like he did the McDonald's thing because Kamala Harris said she worked at McDonald's, and she's like, see, now I've worked at McDonald's more than Kamala Harris has. And then this garbage thing, he's just embracing something they did. He's trolling them. And to me, I love it. I love his sense of humor. He is so funny.
I think we recognize that Trump easily slots into roles like that because he actually does easily slot into roles like that because he's done it so many times over his life at his own businesses. He's intimately aware of how his hotels work and his other businesses work. And I'm not saying that he could go in and he could run and he could do any job in his business, right? But he has enough experience and familiarity with helping people and understanding how his businesses work from the ground up that when he shows up into a kitchen or into a loading dock or a warehouse or whatever it is, he has some familiarity of that type of work environment. And so when he goes to McDonald's and he's in a restaurant environment, he's probably done a lot of work in restaurants, like hundreds of hours, if not thousands of hours, Trump has spent in kitchens, in restaurants that are really high level restaurants and lower ones, learning about every person's job and learning about how that works and how it works well, how it works poorly, and how to fix it, right? That's what he's known for, is taking things that either don't work or work kind of okay and then making them better. So I think he goes into McDonald's and these other jobs and he looks so natural at it because it really does come naturally to him. He knows those people. He knows what it's like to work those jobs, not because he actually had to, but because he didn't have to, chose to anyway, learned about what it took to survive in that kind of job and do well and what it meant to the business. And he appreciates it. So when he goes there and he works with those employees and treats them with respect, it's real respect. Because he actually has real empathy for them and had real understanding of what their life is like. Yeah, he's had way too many employees work for him, and he's brought them up in his business. Like you can read so many stories about people who start out in low level and hourly job and Trump businesses, got to know him and his family, and were promoted within and they earned their way up, right? He knows those people and he knows their families, and you can learn so much about Trump's character by reading about those people and what they say about Trump and his character. You see that character show up bright and clear in that McDonald's, in that garbage truck, and in all these other moments.
The reason that Trump has the support of the people, and it's like you said, Bernie, right? It's not because he's fooled us like they think, and this is going to be very much along the lines of like the Michael Moore video. But the left, they actually hate us. Like that slip up by Joe Biden, he genuinely thinks we're garbage. Like he thinks he is better than us, and all those leftists do, all those liberal elites do, all these wealthy, Harvard educated people. They all think they're better than us. Trump doesn't. That's the difference here. Trump, he has every reason to think like just like they do. He's got billions of dollars and status and all these things that turns people into a different mindset that makes them think they're better than other people. Trump is not that person. Trump sees another human being, and like you said, Kyle, he has that empathy and he can relate with you. And I think it's genuine empathy, which is a hard thing to come by these days. People who genuinely have empathy, I think Trump has that. We're going to actually talk a little bit about his press conference from Mar-a-Lago yesterday. I think that was him showing some genuine empathy. But they'll never understand somebody from their club, their little billionaire, highly educated club, fighting for the little guy. We've never had that before. That's why we love him. It's because he genuinely feels for us, and we genuinely feel for him with what he's going through. And we finally have an ally, and have had an ally since he came down the escalator, who's willing to fight for us against the norms of their elite little club. Like, it's awesome.
Yeah, very well said. And that actually reminds me, I wanted to bring this up to people. If you follow me on Twitter, you probably saw me post about it, but it's something most of you wouldn't watch, but I highly, highly recommend the time over the coming days. Look up on YouTube the sit-down interview between Anthony Pompliano, he's a finance guy, talks about Bitcoin, etc., and Howard Lutnick, who is one of the heads of Trump's transition team. Howard Lutnick is the CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald, highly successful finance firm, but he's obviously a close Trump ally. He wasn't officially involved in the two first administrations. But everything you just said about Trump, John, and Kyle, it's uncanny how it maps onto Howard Lutnick. Like Lutnick is, so the people in Trump's real orbit, right? Like his guys, those kind of people like the Giulianis of the world. Howard Lutnick is one of the quintessential American success stories. Long Island kid, both of his parents died actually because of poisoning, like oil poisoning in their water. He was homeless as a teenager. He was feeding his brother and sister macaroni and cheese. Worked his way up through Cantor Fitzgerald as a coffee fetcher for the sales team, became CEO, got $1 million bonus at 25 years old, blah, blah, blah. But all of it to say, he did what Kyle explained that Trump does, where he elevated, he much more valued people he could trust in the finance world than people who were the best finance guys, right? Because then the people he could trust became the best finance guys because he taught them how to be the best finance guys. And it was more important to him that they trust him. The signal in that interview, and what I think might be signal in terms of why this guy has suddenly been activated as a billionaire Trump, not just Trump supporter, but managing his transition team, is most of the human beings that Lutnick loved and worked with died in the World Trade Center on 9/11. And, makes a lot of people in this community think of the comments Trump made at the time. But when you guys are talking about Trump able to navigate those worlds, it's like people remember him, New Yorkers in particular, which I think is part of why he's doing this whole MSG tour and really focusing on New York. They love him because they remember who was there. They remember that Trump and guys like Lutnick and guys like Giuliani were a part of it and actually were there for all of them and are not full of shit. And yeah, they're billionaires, etc. But that's not what it's about.
Dude, over 100 people have been wrapped up in public corruption related probes in New York in the past year.
Right.
That's crazy.
It's within the state legislature, judgeships, housing department, various government agencies, the mayor, of course. So I think it's just that much more impactful for Trump to go to MSG during this time frame when New York is in crisis. Their city government is resigning en masse because they're under investigation. And Trump shows up and he's like, hey, there's a different way. There's a different team available to you guys if you want to vote for them.
It's still crazy to me, and I posted this yesterday when the garbage thing was going on, that New York just discovered the trash bin like 3 months ago. Like, how is that possible? It's like one of my favorite videos of all time. Let me pull it up. Like, this is 3 months ago, guys.
If you want to convince me this is part of the script, then you certainly can.
They should have been playing Diddy during this. That would have made it.
Right.
That would have made it really bad. I get why they chose that Jay-Z song, but
Is that
Trash
Chekhov's trash bin there? And lest we forget, I thought I could get away with it, but what other famous billionaire was notorious for getting into the bowels of his company and understanding every single role all the way up?
If this is a Batman thing, go
Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne, Batman. Batman is the one who did that.
I was gonna say Elon
That's
Musk.
how he found Lucius Fox in the basement, and that's
true.
how he started his subversion of the deep state, by befriending all of the people in the guts of Wayne Enterprises, also known as Trump Tower. Just saying.
You just can't help yourself but show off how nerdy you are.
Yeah. And Kyle, I actually don't think we said this on Defected, but
No,
I'm
if
embarrassed.
this is another Batman thing, no.
John, I think it was on. Was it on the Power Hour? No, it was on Story Hour. I'm ashamed that I did not realize that Wayne Enterprises in The Dark Knight Rises is literally filmed in Trump Tower. It's true.
Prove it. I don't trust you. After that one,
Look it up. Well, that's what somebody told me in the chat. So if they're wrong, then this is a disaster. But I'll look at it.
I really want to know if part
have to
of
look
that
this
movie
up.
was filmed on a Trump property.
This is what he does. This is what he did this like 2 weeks ago too. He's like, he said this outrageous thing. I'm like, no way. And then he prove it, and he couldn't prove it. And I don't believe this.
Okay.
You can't bring sauceless shit to this show, Burning Bright. I feel like that would have come out well before.
Looking it up.
Okay. He knows he's caught. He knows he's caught.
I'm not caught. It was in a boost, man.
Okay.
It can't be wrong.
somebody put money on it. Anyway, while he's doing that for the rest of the show, because he'll never find the sauce for it.
Hold on. For The Dark Knight Rises, let me share my screen here.
Okay.
Let me share my screen. Christian Bale talking about a surreal experience meeting Donald Trump. Blah, blah, blah. Well, The Dark Knight opted for using Richard J. Daley Center for The Dark Knight Rises. The Trump Tower in New York City was used for the scene set at Wayne Enterprises, and that's why Bale ended up meeting Donald Trump himself while in full Bruce Wayne outfit. Bale revealed he thinks Trump thought he was actually the wealthy playboy Bruce Wayne as he talked to him as he was his famous character. So not only did your little plan backfire, but that's maybe the most Batman Trump signal quote of all time in the info war. You just helped us all drive it home.
That's perfect. That's what I want. But next time, just look it up. Actually, look it up instead of just speaking on your ass.
This was funnier
because you had no idea. My plan didn't backfire. My plan worked.
You
learned a lesson in research, which is what me and Kyle have been trying to teach you for 2 years. And you've yet to learn.
I took one lecture from CanCon about research this week. I'm not going to take one from you.
Well, he is the last person to take a lecture on anything from. His research is stealing Ash's posts, and Ash is real salty about that right now. Is Ash here or CanCon?
CanCon 30 tweets, tweet 31. I'd like to thank Ash for inspiring.
No, he at least tagged Ash in the first tweet. It was the one he stole from me that he just.
I don't read his tweets, so I wouldn't know.
14 tweets. Yeah. That's one of my favorite jokes. Like,
you just can't go being the worst.
No, just I don't read your stuff. So. And most of the time for me, it's not even a joke. But okay, let's get into election stuff. So I want to play this Mark Elias video. Hold on, let me pull it up because there's lots of rumors of shenanigans. I think Trump's team's already filed 2 lawsuits across the country, at least related to election stuff. If I'm not mistaken, Kyle, you can correct me if I'm wrong there.
I don't know,
but I'm pretty sure it's
that.
Okay, I'll find that while this video is playing here. Let's start with this though. This is Mark Elias. This was a couple hours ago, and this is what he said on Pennsylvania.
I mean, the fact is the pollsters don't know who's going to win. Okay, so like tune that out. The fact that Donald Trump is complaining in Pennsylvania, that probably tells you more about who's going to win Pennsylvania, at least, than anything else. But in terms of all the rest of the rhetoric and the hate and the vile that gets spewed by Donald Trump and his campaign, they want you not to vote. Okay, Donald Trump has a plan, which is he's going to file a bunch of litigation to make it seem like voting is dangerous. He's going to say a bunch of stuff that's going to make you think your vote won't count. And they want you to react by not voting. So here is my message to you. Make sure you're registered. Make sure you have a plan to vote. If you want to vote early, vote early. If you want to vote on election day, vote on election day. If you want to vote by mail, by all means, vote by mail, but get your mail ballot in now, today, okay? Use a drop box if you have a drop box. That's fine. They're safe and reliable. But
not fireproof, though.
All, don't let him win by intimidating or by discouraging you from believing that your vote will matter. You vote. Don't worry about it. The lawyers will make sure the votes are counted and the elections are certified.
Mark Elias.
What do you guys think of that?
Strange.
I mean, just to get out the vote pitch from Mark Elias. I really don't think much of it. It's just to get out the vote pitch.
You don't find the end of that? Like, you just vote. Us lawyers will make sure they count.
No, I mean, I'm
strange,
expecting. I know what he's referring to, though, is that there's going to be a battle within. There's going to be a battle between poll watchers and election lawyers and stuff. They're expecting that fight in certain precincts. So I'm not. I'm not really off put by that comment, because I think that that's going to be a big story on election day and probably post-election day. Is going to be election lawyers and poll watchers and what should have been counted, shouldn't have been counted, all that kind of, I mean, like in 2020. So, and this year there's going to be a lot more Republican poll watchers and election lawyers deployed. So it's probably on his mind very much that there's a much bigger army of lawfare on the opposite side ready to be deployed. So I just take that as that's what he's referring to there. Okay,
I found one of the lawsuits, and this is I don't know how I feel about this one, guys, because there was Trump's campaign sued in Bucks County, I believe Pennsylvania, right? Is that Pennsylvania? Bucks County? Yeah, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm.
Judge ruled that Bucks County voters will be able to apply for, receive, vote, and return a mail-in ballot until the close of business on Friday, November 1st, after campaigns for former President Trump and Republican Senate candidate Dave McCormick sued the county over long lines and voters being turned away. The suit filed in the Court of Common Pleas in Bucks County asked for mail ballot voting on demand to be offered for one more day. On Wednesday, the judge agreed.
This is exactly the kind of thing that Elias was referring to, I think. This kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yep. I don't know how I feel about that, though. I mean, because mail-in ballots, to me, that's what they're going to, if they're going to cheat again and steal, they're going to, like, that's one of their favorite methods to do so. Trump's team is helping them do it there, it seems. But I don't know. I know there's one more lawsuit. Let me text Ash quick. Yeah, if you guys got anything else to say.
I thought it was a little strange that his opening pitch there about it made sense to me that he's mongering, saying that Trump is going to try to sow doubt in the results. You know, that's age old. That's been going back to 2020 to cover up steal attempts. What was a little off to me was his opening about suggesting that Trump is somehow going to look to suppress people voting when we have seen very publicly, very directly, the complete inverse of that. You know, usually they'll take something Trump is saying and spin that to their narrative. But in this case, he's like, Trump's going to tell you not to vote. It's like, Trump is not doing that even a little bit.
Yeah, he was trying to do some kind of straw man thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't really
He tried
work.
to twist it into he's going to try to suppress confidence in the results, but that's not nearly the same thing as telling you not to vote. You're on mute.
John, you're muted.
Sorry, I mute myself and I'm blowing my nose off screen. I don't want to subject our audience to that. But I can't find this other lawsuit. I know there's one. There's one more before today, but
Are you talking about Virginia and the voter rolls stuff?
Nope, it was one Trump's campaign.
Okay.
I mean, that they ruled on that, I believe, today,
They did.
that they're purging the voter rolls. But no, there's one more lawsuit that the Trump campaign filed like a day or two ago, but it was kind of lost in the noise. I don't know. I'm still not sure what to think about this election. We're killing it in the early vote, which is what they wanted. But to me, going back to 2020 and the vote on the same day thing was the play. It's a double-edged sword. We're getting a huge lead, but we're also telling them exactly how many votes they need well ahead of time to steal, So we'll see, guys. We shall see.
I think our premise might. I mean, I think that when you're faced with such a contradiction, your premise might be wrong. Because somebody's premise is wrong, right?
Well, then what would be wrong with my premise?
Like I'm saying, the premise that you just put forth, that it was better to vote on day of in 2020, but in 2024, Trump's campaign is asking us to vote, basically as soon as possible and election day, whichever you can do it.
Yeah.
And you're saying that it would be more optimal for everybody to vote on election day, right?
I didn't say that.
So what is
I
bothering you about what Trump's campaign is asking people to do this go round?
I said it's contradicting what they did last time, and I said it's a double-edged sword because we're getting a huge lead, but we're telling them exactly how many votes they're going to need to steal.
Maybe
one was better than the other.
Maybe that aspect of it is flawed, that we're actually not doing that, and it isn't that double-edged sword that we're conceiving of it as.
Like, how are we not doing that? If people are voting early instead of voting, which they are, like more people. Like the facts show that people are voting early instead of voting on election day. And one of the reasons they stopped the vote count on election day last year was because they had to play so much catch up. Like, we're giving them a little head start. I actually asked Seth Keshel about this on Twitter. And let me find that. I'll find his thing. But do you not see what I'm saying? Like, we're telling them ahead of time, like, hey, this is roughly how many votes you're going to need to steal now on election day, based on the early vote turnout.
I get what you're saying. I'm just putting out that perhaps our understanding of it is not what we like. Perhaps we're mistaken in viewing it that way. That the premise that they're going to be able to do that, they're going to be able to get that read on the results and then adjust for it, is incorrect. That's what I'm saying. That's the
so
premise.
You don't think they can steal it? Is that what you're saying?
I'm very optimistic. I'm not really worried about them stealing it. I'm really not.
Okay.
That doesn't have anything to do with what I'm offering here. I'm just saying perhaps. That's all I'm saying is perhaps that there's a difference here, and our premise is incorrect, and that's why it seems like a contradiction, but actually it's not. That's all I'm putting out.
This is what Seth Keshel said. So he had a tweet. Are Republicans cannibalizing the election day vote and therefore getting overly optimistic about better margin performance so far? Possibly to a degree, but election day voting is still a thing for people like me who are traditionalists and just distrusting of the entire process, who find it the preferred way to vote. I'll be the November 5th if I'm not 6 feet underground. And I asked, what are your thoughts about the Trump camp and a lot of Con Inc. switching to advocate for early voting? 2020 was all same day in person. Why the switch? It's a catch-22, unfortunately. Take PA, for example. Do we let them get a 50-day head start on the vote, or do we compete for 50 days and then feed them the data to see if election day can get tipped? Culmination of years of loosening of election law, no good way to go from there.
What's interesting to me, taking that premise, is I think that we all agree, whatever is going to play out on November 5th, that there's absolutely going to be an attempt by the machine to swing the election, to steal the election. We're going to see tons of election fraud. A while back, I was kind of trying to parse out what is Trump doing with the get out the vote early efforts, and I was focusing on it mostly from a narrative. Maybe he's trying to deprive them partly of the story that they used in 2020, the excuse of saying like, hey, where did all these last minute Biden votes come from? And the story out of the machine was, well, Democrats had a historic unbalanced early return, an unbalanced, unprecedented early return advantage here. They've taken that story from them. But with you guys going back and forth on it, it actually makes me think of another strategy here. If your premise is right, John, and that, we're giving them the data, we're giving the other side the data that they would ostensibly need, like, hey, here's how many votes you're behind, So you're going to need to budget those early Trump votes into whatever you project is going to happen on election day. I still think they're going to try to steal it, but I actually think that might be the point. It might be like, think of it this way. On election day last time, they had this massive lead, Democrats, or they had this massive surplus because they were able to swing those early votes and have all these fraudulent ballots. This time they don't have that. So they're going to have, that's why you're seeing the media seeding of like 2-3 weeks of counting, where if they do go all the way in with the steal, I think it also gives us some hints as to why Trump keeps reposting the cease and desist letter. Like, he knows they're going to try it. And I think what we might be gearing up for is 2 weeks of Trump calling fraud every day while like 3 states drag their feet for 3 weeks. And the reason they're going to have to drag their feet for that long is because of the early Trump votes that they weren't able to paper over this time. So they're going to have to do that, all the same day votes, and then some, and find all these ways to create them in the weeks following. So again, they're going to try to steal it, but is it going to be actually even harder for them to steal it with the early votes?
Yeah, this was 16 hours ago. Pennsylvania is cheating and getting caught at large-scale levels rarely seen before. Report cheating to authorities. Law enforcement must act now. And hey, there's been a lot of narrative play out there with, military and National Guard being used in domestic law enforcement. And Trump had that thing about the enemy within not long ago, saying, in regards to the election, what if when it comes to election? Let me pull that clip up too. Hold on. Hold for processing. But he's calling it out. He's calling out the cheating.
Yeah. Well, and people in chat are talking about too big to rig, which obviously has been a big Trump narrative. And there's many different interpretations of that. We've thought about it as, literally too many votes. But he might be just saying, it's too big. You're going to have all eyes of the country on a couple of states for 3 weeks when the other 47 have their votes in. That just seems untenable compared to them doing it in a couple of days in 2020.
Yeah. And it comes down to like the premise we've been like working from this for years, like since the midterms, is they're not just going to let this guy back into office when they successfully stole from the time before. Like, they're going to let him use that system to get back into office. And I don't think Trump needs the elections. I think he cemented his return. And I don't think he's going to rely on a fraudulent system to use to get back. You know what I mean? So it could be all for the narrative, and he's going to narratively do the too big to win thing and fix the election system later. I could get on board with that for sure. There's just so many question marks for me. I know they're going to try to steal it. We already see shenanigans going on, but this is Trump's clip the other day about the enemy within.
I think the bigger problem is the enemy from within, not even the people that have come in and destroying our country. By the way, totally destroying our country. The towns, the villages, they're being inundated. But I don't think they're the problem in terms of election day. I think the bigger problem are the people from within. We have some very bad people. We have some sick people, radical left lunatics. And I think they're and it should be very easily handled by, if necessary, by National Guard, or if really necessary, by the military, because they can't let that happen. I think the bigger problem...
It's the part where he says in terms of election day, when he says that. So,
yeah.
And then you align that with this tweet. I don't know. Guys. Gonna be fun 6 days and 16, 20, 30 days after that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chris has kind of been more on point with that line of thinking, Bernie Wright, lately. Like, where, maybe all we need is like 3 or 4 weeks of uncertainty and no announcement of who's winning, and like, why is it taking so long to count? And that's what wakes everybody up to the fraud. Like, without them actually having to steal it. Like, maybe that's all we need.
And that can take many forms, right? But I mean, I've been saying none of us knows what's going to happen. Of course, we have to caveat that with everything. But one of the things I have been saying for a couple of years is that the only issue I have with people who are really adamant that they're going to steal it again successfully is that they're not saying that in bad faith. Usually they're saying that to say, like, I don't trust our election systems given what we've seen, and I believe that we need our election systems fixed. whether or not Trump is our next president and whoever's beyond that, which I fully agree with. But it's never been a mutually exclusive position to me to suggest that Donald Trump could, quote unquote, win this election and we could get mass exposure of election fraud. And I think that's been the scenario that people don't really usually talk about. There's usually like they're either going to steal the election or everything's fine, we're going to overwhelm the vote. Neither of those scenarios addresses a fix to the election system. But like you just said, just imagine that kind of moment in American culture. What is their story going to be? Like, really try to game out what is their story going to be if 48 states are done counting on November 6th or 7th, and 1 or 2 of them are counting for 3 weeks, and we all know what the election hinges on. I just can't even imagine them. Even a lot of reachable liberals, I think, would be like, guys, I mean, you're not doing us any favors here in terms of the optics of the situation.
I think Trump's going to win, and it's going to be a pretty obvious win on election night, and he's going to declare victory on election night, and the media is going to have on-air meltdowns akin to 2016, and it's going to be a great night. That's what I think is going to happen. You're muted, John. You're muted.
Sorry. He declared himself winner in 2020 too, didn't he?
Yeah.
On election night? Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Like, if I'm them, the enemy, and I'm going to do my best to not let Trump back in there, right? Like they've tried everything. They've tried lawsuits. They've tried bullshit media stories. They've tried killing him. Like the next item on the checklist is to successfully steal an election. Successfully, meaning like Kamala gets declared the winner. And so they're not going to like cheat to a point where it's like, okay, well, we tried. Like, I think if they're going to be cheating, they're going to cheat all the way as much as they can in order to get her to be declared the winner. To them, the best operating point narratively is operating from the point of Kamala Harris was declared the winner, guys, and all this cheating is misinformation. That's what they used the last 4 years. You know what I mean? So, like, Trump has the support of this country. Trump is going to be inaugurated on January 20th, or however that all plays out. Trump will be the next president of the United States, 45, 47, with a little second term in between. It's how we get from point A to point B, and our audience needs to be prepared. Like, we all need to be prepared that these people are willing to do anything, and as confident as we are that Trump has the support and enough legal votes to win the election, there are going to be shenanigans. It is undoubtable. And we can't be like depressed and let down if that doesn't happen. Like, that is a possibility. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think we discussed this Friday. I think it was toward the end of Trump's conversation with Rogan. I found that really interesting, the way Trump was tap dancing his way around Rogan's pretty earnest, direct attempts to get him to talk about election fraud. Rogan was like, you talked about election fraud in 2020. You said it was stolen. He's like, it was stolen. There's all this evidence, blah, blah, blah. We've heard that a million times. And Rogan's like, okay, so what do you think needs to be done? And why do you think that's not going to happen this time? And what should we do about it? And he's like, oh, there's election fraud, blah, 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 blah. And then he moves forward. But then Rogan asked him like 4 or 5 times, like, you keep talking about it. You don't just get to be like election fraud. And then, oh, I won, guys. And we're never going to talk about election fraud again. And when Rogan put it in those terms, Trump actually said, well, I do agree, Joe. I'm paraphrasing here, but I believe his quote was, I owe the American people free and fair elections. So he said that toward the end of that podcast, which we need that no matter what scenario plays out next week. Like, I don't think it's enough long term if it's like Trump overwhelms the fraud and there's a big media meltdown and then we just never get an address of election fraud again. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think that if that is the scenario that plays out, Trump is acknowledging like our election systems need to change. And he's saying, I owe it to the American people to do that.
Let's listen to these 2 parts where there's 2 main sections where they address the election fraud. Kyle, have you seen this interview?
I've seen half of it. I don't think I made it to this part.
Okay. Because there's this part, and then the part he says at the end about the machines. That's the one that's most interesting to me, but let's listen to them both. And Trump's answers reveal a lot, especially the machine one. We'll talk about it here in a second.
It's not 0%. So if you ask me, what is the amount of election fraud in this country? Is it 0%? No one thinks it's 0%. I've never met one person, not a super liberal, progressive, far left person or a right-wing conservative. Not one person thinks it's 0%. They think when you have human beings, and also you have a lot of weirdness that was going on during the 2020 elections, particularly with mail-in ballots.
And you had legislatures that had to approve, and they didn't approve, and they went out and did it anyway. And you had old-fashioned ballot screwing. I mean, you had, you have people going up and dropping in phony votes. You had unsigned ballots, et cetera, et cetera.
There's certain people that think that they have, and there's the rhetoric is also that you're Hitler, and that in order to stop Hitler, you have to do whatever it takes.
That was okay, yeah.
Yeah, and this is, I mean, you're hearing this now. Kamala compared you to, said your love of Hitler yesterday.
Kamala's a very low IQ person. She's a very low IQ. I'm for taking tests too. I think anybody that runs for president they should give them tests. And it's not an age thing. It's not based. If you look back on history, 70s and 80s, some of your greatest leaders in the world history.
Both of y'all are muted.
So let me go to the next one here.
All right.
I was clickety-clacking typing.
To turn over an election.
Let's talk about
have standing. They didn't rule on the merits. They ruled the merits never got there.
Here,
evidence that it was rigged. Why haven't you put this evidence in a consumable form? In what?
Oh, I did. I have books on it. And by the way, books have been written on it. We have an author named Hemingway, who is a great writer. She wrote a book on it, but many books have been written on it. There are books that are. What's happened is judges don't want to touch it. They would say you don't have standing. They didn't rule on the merits. The merits never got there. The judges didn't have what it took to turn over an election.
Let's talk about the potential vulnerabilities for elections and election fraud. One of them is mail-in ballots. The other one is if someone can break into voting machines, if someone can hack voting machines. Those are two huge ones.
So Elon Musk, I think he said it publicly. I hope he did, because I wouldn't want to be the one, but he's a really smart guy, and he's a very good guy with computers, right? You'd say he's
one of the smartest people alive.
Anybody that can land that 20-story building and perfect, and boom,
while he's doing Starlink, while he's talking to me, while he owns Twitter,
and then he agrees to Starlink,
and he tweets 100 times a day.
He's an amazing guy. Right?
Yeah,
he said to me that unless you have paper ballots, it can never be an honest election. That's a big statement.
It's a big statement.
We should go to paper ballots. France did. They went to mail-in voting, and it was all messed up.
What can
the amazing thing with the machines? So we have the machines. They cost 10 times more. Paper ballot would cost 8%. And they make paper ballots, they're all watermarked and everything else. They're very sophisticated. But if you take a look, paper ballots, 8% the cost, and you're done by 9 o'clock in the evening, right? Now we have these sophisticated machine. It goes up to heaven. It goes all over the place and down and around. And they say, we'll need 2 weeks to figure out who the hell won the election.
Do you think that's by design?
Yeah, I do. I think it's very crooked. That's my opinion.
You're allowed to have an opinion. What?
And the point I made when we talked about this on Saturday's Power Hour is that, yes, the president is allowed to have an opinion, but his opinion might be a little more educated and a little more sauce than most people's opinion, especially when it comes to stuff like this regarding what happened in the 2020 election with the accusations of the machines being fraudulent. He calls them crooked, but he had access to all the intelligence, like any intelligence out there that our machines were doing some shit. Trump knew about it. And so his opinion that they're crooked is a huge, huge deal to me. And if you notice, Joe Rogan was trying to go to a different subject, and Trump went to the machines talking about them going up to heaven and all that stuff. He knows exactly what he's saying there. And to me, that's a lot of signal about these machines. And an interesting point about the elections, and we talked about this on Saturday too. And I think this is something that CanCon brought up on a Badlands Daily this week. Stacey Abrams talking about election day and how we're losing now. The Democrats are losing in the pre-voting, but that means they're just going to turn up on election day. If that happens, the method of voting in most of these key states, battleground states, on election day is through the machines. And so if they're going to cheat, what a great way to expose the election machines by
if all the early voting is ballot voting, or most of it.
I don't know. I mean, again, I just think we all need to be prepared for any possible outcome here. It's just
either way. If you're Donald Trump, there was a quote. I don't think he said it in that specific scene, but he said, no, he did. Yeah, unless you have paper ballots, it can never be an honest election. It's okay.
That's what
take
Elon
that quote.
Said. He was quoting Elon with that. Yeah, he was quoting Elon.
Okay, they're quoting him. I mean, it depends if he believes that or not, but that's the sort of thing that I think he needs to, whatever happens next week, address in a next administration, and I think he will, in terms of where the Supreme Court needs to address it, and everybody is talking about that. I mean, I've even got a New York Times piece pulled up from October 6th. Bruised Supreme Court returns to bench with possible election cases looming, and it's talking about aside from major disputes on issues like transgender rights and guns, the docket is fairly routine, but that could change fast if the presidential race is contested. There's a ton of other pieces like that throughout October. The machine is expecting the Supreme Court to be heavily involved with either the election or the aftermath of the election, no matter which way it goes. And I think that could be we all think that that's a good thing, but it could go toward, even if Trump overwhelms the fraud and wins an election, the fact that he's making statements like that about you need same-day voting, you need paper ballots, then that means that the system needs to change. That means we can't have these. And so how would that be exposed? Like you said, it's got to be exposed during the election.
Yeah, wasn't there a part in here? Oh, it's okay. Here, let me play this too, and then Kyle, you should comment if you got anything.
What can be done to mitigate these problems? What could be done at at the level that the president has power?
Well, if I win, this will be my last election. But I think I owe it to the country. Yeah. But I think I owe it to the country. We have to have fair elections.
So how can you fix that?
Jimmy Carter was in charge of a commission, that many years ago. And they put him and Scoop Jackson and various senators, distinguished people that were retired. And they came up with a report. And the report's primary finding was you cannot have mail-in ballots. Because if it's a mail-in ballot, I went to the voting booth the last time, whatever it was. And I walked in Palm Beach. And I walk in and they know me. They say, Mr. President, could I see your identification? Boom, here's this, here's that, everything. And then you sit and they watch you sign, and there's not a lot you can do. I mean, if you wanted to be dishonest, it's sort of beautiful.
Right.
If instead of that, I'm going to send them a ballot.
Right.
It has to go through the postal services. It has to go through a lot of people. They mail you houses that, the house was demolished and the people have left, and it's so bad. The one thing with Jimmy Carter, he had a very strong commission.
You get the point, though. I think you made this point, Bernie Bright. He owes it to the American people. That's just it.
That's his legacy. I want to hear your take on that particular quote, Kyle. But the reason that I think it's, especially hearing it again there, the reason it jumped out to me is how Trump sets it up. He sets it up by saying, once I'm president, I owe it to the American people to have free and fair elections. That's really encouraging to me, because I think it shows me that in any scenario, if they successfully steal it, it's not going to be successful, which we all agree with. Or if they overwhelm the fraud and Trump is declared the winner, he is telling you right there that that's not where our analysis of the election system stops. And that is the biggest fear among people who fear overwhelming the fraud as a scenario. It's not because they don't want Trump to win. It's because they don't want Trump to win an otherwise fraudulent election and then have our election system not addressed. So I love that he addressed it there and said, I owe it to the American people. We have to have honest elections. Once I'm president again, we're going to make that happen.
I just want people to go vote. So just go vote. We'll see if what Trump can do, but I think a lot of it, fixing our elections, whatever that means to people, a lot of it has to happen at the local level and state level. So I don't think there's a lot that SCOTUS or the White House can actually do to apply a fix nationwide. But whatever they can do, great. I just want everybody to go vote for Trump, whether they vote by mail or early or on a machine, paper ballot, just go vote.
I think we all agree on that point. The voting part. Anyway, okay, well, we have boost from last week, man?
Yes.
Oh, we got one more sponsor tonight, quick. I gotta play that. Let me play the sponsor, and then we'll do the boosts. A couple other housekeeping items before we move on. Hit that thumbs up, by the way, everybody. We truly appreciate that. Good friends over at EasyRx want to help you in this time of need. With government failures and devastation running rampant, it's never been a better time to stockpile popular medications like amoxicillin, azithromycin, ivermectin, fenbendazole, hydroxychloroquine, and all sorts of other viral care medications. EasyRx wants to help you in such a time as this. For a limited time, Badlanders will receive 25% off purchases of $100 or more using promo code Black Friday. Rest assured that you and your loved ones are ready for anything with EasyRx. Go to badlandsmedia.tv/EasyRx and use promo code Black Friday for 25% off purchases over $100. Stock up on those antibiotics and other necessary meds. It's badlandsmedia.tv/EasyRx, promo code Black Friday. I did see people in the chat. I did take ivermectin today, so I'm covered. Just apparently hasn't kicked in yet because can't stop snotting.
We have $10 from Mark Q Patriot last week. Howdy, gents. Thank you, BB, for getting my name right last week. I'm back about the attorney from New Mexico. Kyle had it right. I'm curious about Clement and why he is shunned.
Clement.
I don't know what this is a reference to.
I don't know how else to treat charlatans.
I'm not sure about that one.
With Clement.
I don't.
We were talking
I don't know
about
what else
with
to
the guy making like the cabal claims or the cartel claims or whatever.
I have no idea what he's claiming now. I just know what he claimed a while back.
So. Was that the Arizona guy?
He said New Mexico.
He wasn't Arizona. He was New Mexico.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't. They're not talking about the preacher. They're talking about someone else, right? With the professor.
Some attorney.
Yeah, not the props.
Yeah. Not the professor. Not the preacher. Not
the professor.
Professor.
Awake in Mass, $25. Attention, New England Badlanders. We're having a meetup November 3rd at noon in Framingham at Jack Abbey's Brewery. Hope you can make it. We're not affiliated with Badlands Media. By the way, love DPH. They had sent that over last week too. But this weekend, peeps, that's Sunday. Check it out.
Check it out.
Iron Man, Iron Time sent $10 over. Badlands is the Bitcoin of journalism, a decentralized group of truth miners and nodes that is becoming more powerful with every show, debasing the MSM in the process. As fiat is to Bitcoin, all of the MSM goes to zero against Badlands.
That might be the best rant we've ever seen.
Media goes to zero. Iron Man sent another one over. John, have you ever mapped the geographic distribution of Badlands viewers? I'm sure the US has the largest numbers, but I'm also sure there are more than just myself and UK Neil that make up the UK audience. For instance, if America falls, we all fall.
Rumble doesn't have that feature. It's hard for us to track like any other way, but with our conference, our ticket sales, we're able to map it that way. So if you look to purchase a ticket or get a ticket, whether it's in person or virtual, we can see where you're from. So that's pretty cool. I know we have a couple Australians. We had some show up in Deadwood. And by the way, get your tickets, guys. We still have single day Saturday and Sunday tickets available for Myrtle Beach. Friday we are like overbooked. Overbooked. I almost feel bad for Miss Bright because I've sent a few late ones over. But anyway, yeah, get your in-person tickets and then also get your virtual tickets if you can't join us, because it's going to be a great time right after the election, however it works out. It's going to be fun.
Iron Man sent one more over. I'd love to one day come and hang out with you guys at GART. I feel so connected to my Badlands friends. Heck, if dudes can identify as chicks, I can identify as a U.S. patriot. Maybe I'll just start my own fart foreign Anglo restoration tour.
I like that. I'd attend a fart.
Yeah, fart UK. The problem with doing international conferences is that's when we'd actually all get arrested. Like we could do GART Toronto, but the Mounties would come for us.
Not going to Canada ever.
So we can't. Yeah.
That's like we don't have a mission statement, but if we did, it would be we're not going to Canada, and that's it.
Yeah.
So
I'm glad these other subservient colonies to the crown recognize their inferiority, though. We love you for it. I mean, it's just, I like that.
UK Neil was in America not long ago, like within the last year, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't come to a conference, so he didn't time that very well.
Then we've got who's the Florida one? Hugh Man. He's a Brit, saddled up with a Floridian, I believe.
Nice.
Yep. That's all the boosts we got.
That's all the foreigners we got too. Just those two.
Yeah.
No, we did have those Australians who came.
They were fake Australians. They were Brits who
live in Australia.
moved to Australia and then came to America that way for the GART.
Yeah.
So
anyway, okay, what we're going to talk about next?
the banks, maybe?
Yeah, the cartel stuff was pretty good. Let me pull that up. Trump yesterday gave a press conference from Mar-a-Lago, and in typical Trump fashion, said 9 a.m. So we had the coverage going at 9 a.m. And sure enough, he didn't show up till about 10. So that was fun. But it was interesting. The thing that stood out to me right off the bat was his tone, like his demeanor. Like I said, it was much more somber, and it should have been because of the topics he was discussing. He was discussing, like right off the bat, the stuff with the border, like actual damages that have happened from the border, actual damages that have happened from the economy, and actual damages that have happened from the Biden withdrawal. All three things that wouldn't have happened if Trump was in office. And these are all three things that we've talked about that people have almost used as an angle to debunk devolution, right? Like, how could devolution be in place, but people come across the border and kill people, or, the economy is going bad, or the Afghanistan, 13 people die, or whatever it was. How could devolution be possible in those scenarios? When I looked at his press conference yesterday and the way he talked about these people and to these people, this is that empathy. Like, to me, it felt like it was almost like an apology, because he had to walk away and these bad things had to happen, and he is going to try to make up for it. And that's one of the notable things. He's creating a what was the word, Kyle, that we said earlier? Restitution?
Yeah, restitution. Yeah.
Yep. He's creating a restitution fund. Let me play this clip here, because he goes into the cartels and all these things coming up across the border. And that's not new. Like, we've talked about this. He's done executive orders. There's multiple of them. Actually, one of the first executive orders he did was like re-exerting federal authority. And this is like in February 2017, specifically relating to the cartels. And it talked about seizing their assets. So that part isn't new. This restitution fund that he's talking about is. And this is significant. And it gets bigger than this. We'll get into that discussion with some of the stuff you found, Burning Bright. But let's start with this right here.
Go to a hospital, they're unable to get in, they're packed. The whole town has changed, and this is happening all over our country. Aurora probably is an even worse situation, because you have the meanest, worst gang from Venezuela in the world, probably maybe as bad or worse than MS-13, and they've literally taken over the town. They've taken over large sections of the town. They've gone into the real estate business. They've taken over apartment complex. They took over a number of complexes where the people are paying them rent. They've become the landlord. Isn't that nice? And they're rough, tough people, and they have the latest weapons. They have military quality weapons, and everyone's saying, where did they get them? We got to get them out of here. We're going to get them out fast. We're going to get them out fast. So today, I'm announcing that for the first time under my administration, we will be seizing the assets of the criminal gangs and drug cartels. And we will use those assets to create a compensation fund to provide restitution for the victims of migrant crime, and the government will help in the restoration. The government will help in the restitution, but something has to be done, and we're gonna get it done. Kamala.
Yeah, so there's that, and that's pretty significant. What are your guys' thoughts?
Great stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle, I know you were reading a lot about this with the TD case, but what it made me think of was, obviously you mentioned that other executive order, but the one we talk about the most, 13818, right? The seizing the assets of those involved in human rights abuses, blah, blah, blah. And both those executive orders and in that particular press conference, this is the perfect example of Trump's bicameral narrative style. And it's not to do the drinking game or whatever, but truly every word he says in a conference like that can be taken on either level. It can be taken as very literal. We are talking about drug-running Mexican violent cartels and illegal immigrants, and anybody involved in funding these operations. So this reminded me of the banks. I mean, many people in this community call them the central banking cartel. And we've got recent items with Wall Street Journal reported back in May, TD Bank probe tied to laundering of illicit fentanyl profits. So obviously that's the biggest bank, biggest Canadian bank that operates in the US. So that was huge. Then we had the DOJ actually hand down punishment against them. TD pleads guilty to Bank Secrecy Act and money laundering conspiracy violations. $1.8 billion resolution there. And today, it was reported that the Bank of America is warning, they put out a statement today warning that there is possible federal enforcement coming for them, or federal reports coming for them about AML, which are American anti-money laundering laws. Like, apparently Zero Hedge cites this investigative journalist, Sam Cooper and David Asher, who back in September said, we're talking about the TD Bank case, and they said, quote, most of what we're seeing is coming from this TD Bank case, and there's a lot more. We'll see which one of the big four US banks gets named next. So then, give it a month, they were spot on. Bank of America is preceding that there's going to be some enforcement action against them. So just take that and apply it to everything Trump is talking about with not just cartels, but anybody involved in funding cartels, anybody involved in funding the fentanyl trade, anybody involved in money laundering activities that are benefiting these organizations. If you guys want to go further back, I had suggested this on Tuesday night, but Joe Lang's series on the Badlands Substack, starting with School of Assassins and Dictators, I believe, if you search for that article, goes all the way through the Iran-Contra scandal, talks about the heavy involvement of U.S. banks with funding the Contras. This is age-old CIA, bank laundering, etc. But it stands to reason to me that Trump is talking about, I know Chris uses the term drainage. He's been talking about this for a long time. It looks like banks are getting rolled up and defined, according to the Trump administration, as cartels, unless it's just a total coincidence that Trump's increasing announcements of cartel enforcement are coming in between the DOJ actions against major banks for the same shit.
Let me add some sauce to what you're saying. Unless, Kyle, do you want to say anything on this? Otherwise, I got some Devo sauce to add.
I could add that TD Bank their fine is the largest fine ever paid by a bank. It's $1.8 billion for the criminal side, but then there's also another $1 billion that they're having to pay on the civil side, and they're one of many banks that are under scrutiny right now. And it's the bank is being held accountable for not following through on anti-money laundering practices and reporting suspicious activity to the DOJ. That was under an agreement they had already signed after having already been caught years ago. They failed to follow through on their agreement. So the Garland DOJ came down on them even harder and extracted almost $2 billion in penalties from them, which is bad enough. But then the Garland said at his press conference, look, every individual at TD Bank who engaged in criminal activity or contributed to this money laundering is also under investigation, and this penalty doesn't absolve them of any possible criminal liabilities. So the bank is like, okay, you guys got to pay the fine. Now every person who works for you who might have had a hand in this under investigation. And we're talking about billions of dollars in money laundering. And if you go back 10 years to I think it's the Panama Papers. I think it was the Panama Papers that discovered over $1 trillion in money laundering for narcotics, human trafficking, all of this stuff that was going through not obscure banks, but Bank of America, TD Bank, Swiss Bank, all of these big brand name banks that we all are familiar with that have Madison Avenue, offices and all that stuff. They're in bed with all of these cartels, and they got caught and said, oh yeah, sorry. And then continued that money laundering activity, which means that they're so in bed with the cartels, they felt like they couldn't stop laundering money from them, is what I think. When you get caught involved in something like that, and you're this multi-billion-dollar corporation, and you don't change, you don't employ you don't correct your behavior, you just keep on doing it. I think it was a sign that the banks were they felt like it was more dangerous to stop than it
Right.
was to enforce the anti-money laundering practices that DOJ was asking them to, right? Regardless of what the situation was, they're FUBAR'd. And I think TD Bank is one of the first. TD Bank is one of the first. And then you have Bank of America looks like the next one. And it reminds me, just real quick, it reminds me of a tweet from a random guy who follows some of the same cases and stuff that I do. His name's Eric Garland, no relation to Merrick Garland, but he had a tweet back in April, I think, where he said, "Hey guys, look at this. The number one search term on Google at the beginning of this week in April is federal target letter." And like thousands of people on like that Monday or Tuesday of that week in April had Googled, what is a federal target letter? Like, what does it mean when I get a target letter from the DOJ? Wow. And he was thinking it had to do with a big crackdown in St. Louis in Missouri. And it might have. There's been dozens of people in public corruption scandals in St. Louis, Missouri recently. But I'm finding myself looking back at news stories like this and Adams and others and wondering if it was something like this, where a target letter was sent to hundreds of employees of a bank saying you need to turn over all documents related to enforcement of AML practices or other things like that. So this is massive. This is what it means to me. This is the very definition of draining the swamp. You drain the resources, the money out of the swamp, and suddenly those creatures are dried out.
Yeah.
That's what this is.
Awesome.
I was just going to say that he mentioned, it reminded me when you mentioned the Panama Papers. Well, this is a way bigger bank sting, if you want to look at it that way. TD Bank, Bank of America, and it's implied just the start of the Big Four. But going back a year, we've got Silicon Valley Bank, First Republic Bank in the US, and you mentioned the Swiss, Credit Suisse. And Credit Suisse and Silvergate. The fascinating thing about Credit Suisse to me was the fact that in the US with Silicon Valley Bank and First Republic and Silvergate, the US Treasury came in and acted as broker and seized control of those assets, right? And all the alternative media, like the Zero Hedges of the world, God bless them, it's how they were reading things through the doom glasses. They were like, look, the Biden administration, they're covering this up, where people like us saw it as U.S. seizure of criminal assets, right? Because that cartel terminology is super broad. We know that Silicon Valley Bank was involved in funding Epstein and his associates. We know that First Republic was involved in funding FTX and a lot of those guys. So this stuff is super broad. But the reason I bring up Credit Suisse is that was the biggest calm to me, that this drainage thing is international and is part of the sort of international Devo sovereign alliance stuff we talk about, because the same template of government brokered seizure happened in Switzerland. It was the government of Switzerland came in and I forget the name, UBS, I believe, was the bank that and what was so interesting about reading the details of that is that UBS was essentially insulated from anything they were taking on. They were given protections by the Swiss government that said, any kind of dirty books you guys take over, you are not liable for. Any hidden debts that you come across as you seize these assets, you are not liable for. The government will take control. That's actually the same thing that the U.S. Treasury did.
All right, now let me give you some sauce here and kind of prove to you guys that this is devolution-y. So this is the executive order I was talking about. One of the first things Trump did. Executive Order 13773, enforcing federal law with respect to transnational criminal organizations and preventing international trafficking. This one is a little less under the radar than his 13818, but to me, this one is almost more significant based on the stuff that Trump did. And I've written about this in one of my articles, and I'll show you that. This mentions cartels in here multiple times, just to prove you that point. But if you go to my part 19, okay, and go through there a little bit, have this executive order mentioned, February 9th, 2017, 13773. This is the one where Trump did a few interesting things, okay? Number one, he had this continuation This executive order, one of the authorities it's based in is an Obama executive order, and that's based on a national emergency. And so every year, this national emergency needs to be reauthorized or continued. And so July of 2017, Trump continues the executive order. The very next day, he withdraws the previous continuation and issues a new one. And this is where he changes the language. And the change is what's significant and points to the banking stuff, which you were talking about. So let me read these two sides. The first one, which he revoked, is significant transnational criminal organizations continue to threaten the safety of the United States and its citizens through the scope and gravity of their actions. Such organizations derive revenue through widespread illegal conduct and overwhelmingly demonstrate a blatant disregard for human life through acts of violence and abuse. And there's a part here that's the same in both. And then as the sophistication of these organizations increases, they pose an increasing threat to the United States. The one that he reissued in place of that the very next day has this language. The activities of significant transnational criminal organizations have reached such scope and gravity that they threaten the stability of international political and economic systems. Such organizations are increasingly sophisticated and dangerous to the United States. They are increasingly entrenched in the operations of foreign governments and the international financial system, thereby weakening democratic institutions, degrading the rule of law, and undermining economic markets. So that's number one, and that's all about the bank stuff. He changed it to include financial stuff, which I think is big. Now, the second big thing he did with this and transnational criminal organizations, if you guys remember, is he issued this executive order, 13863, taking additional steps. This happens quite a bit with some of the stuff. They kind of like further broaden the scope of how they tackle these things. In this, Trump revoked a section of Obama's original executive order and added a new one. And this is the one where what he did is he changed it from, it didn't just have to be at least 2 foreign states. So that they're defining significant transnational criminal organizations. It's a group of persons, such as those listed in the annex, blah, 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 that engages in an ongoing pattern of serious criminal activity involving the jurisdictions of at least 2 foreign states. And that threatens the national security, foreign policy, or economy of the United States. Trump's definition was all the same up to after it said at least 2 foreign states or 1 foreign state and the United States. Like it included the United States within the definition. And I think that's huge.
Right.
I think that's why he mentioned the gang taking over the properties in Colorado. He's talking about Tren de Aragua, which is a gang from Venezuela named after the Venezuelan state of Aragua. And they've been coming into the U.S. There's been a bunch of stories about them. I think I've seen either an advisement, not an indictment, but I've seen something from DOJ on them. And I almost want to say there's some prosecutor or somebody that we like, some name we like who has been assigned them, but I got to find it. But anyway, that change right there, that would encompass Tren de Aragua and other gangs that have some that are working with a foreign state.
Well, it would include anybody. Like if you know that you're going to have an open border, like, and all these gangs and everything are coming in, they all fall under this. Like Trump was preparing for it back in March of 2019.
And I saw Joe Lang in the chat earlier as well. Kyle, you had mentioned there's a couple ways to look at the bankers, right? There's certainly some that are probably the Ozark template where they got in too deep. They're afraid, like you said, right? They're afraid of who's really got their finger on the trigger, the thumb on their neck, or the foot on their neck. But to Lang's point, there are also banks and offices that were set up to facilitate these exact sort of situations. Not the entire bank, but certainly executives that know what's going on. When I see the Rolling Stone article from May that went pretty viral, where according to sources, Trump is planning to send kill squads to Mexico to take out cartel leaders, I look at that a couple of ways. I look at it as direct and him saying, you know, if we look at the banks as the financial arm of the cartel, the international crime syndicate, then that's obviously the financial arm. We look at the cartels as sort of the kinetic arm when you're talking about Tren de Aragua, etc. Trump is he's not only warning those kinetic arms of the cartels, we're coming for you. And Mexico, by the way, if we're sending kill squads to Mexico, that means Mexico is going to help us and be on those kill squads, which they have very recently. But also, I think to your point about the banks, whether the banks are afraid of the cartels or are part and parcel, Trump is saying, like, your boys are going to get got. So you're going to be on your own. Like, it reads to me in hindsight like him sending those signal flares out to the bankers and saying, you guys better fear us a lot more than you fear the cartels, because we're going to wipe them all out. So then you're only going to have to contend with us. You know, like, it's not going to work when you're in front of a court and you're like, well, I was afraid of the cartel. That's why I made $1 billion laundering money for them. It didn't work for Marty and Ozark. It's not going to work in the real world.
So you're telling me that when Trump says we're going after the cartels, that's the same as him saying, hey, banks, we're going after some of your clients.
That's what I think. I think, and it works both ways. It works. The banks could be afraid of those clients, and Trump is saying, well, I'm going to take this excuse away from you because we're going to kill them all. Or if you're knowingly working with them and you're being enriched on behalf of them, they're not going to be able to protect you any longer. Some of that stuff that you'd sent in the chat here is pretty great. I think that's worth.
Well, I want to sauce what you just said too about Trump saying he's going to go and take out cartels. Like, who would be the ones to go do that? It would be the military, I would assume, right? Yeah. Okay, well, if you continue on in my part 19, and I haven't gotten to this in the recap series, I haven't been able to do it in a while, but this executive order where he changed the definition was March 15th of 2019. Just 2 months later, they issue this framework to counter drug trafficking and other illicit threat networks.
Wow.
You guys might have forgotten about this.
Yeah.
So that first executive order from February 9th, 2017, where Trump talks about the cartels, it created a working group in EO 13773. The president directed the Threat Mitigation Working Group to direct and coordinate the whole of government strategic planning and strategic intelligence efforts to identify, interdict, disrupt, and dismantle transnational criminal organizations. The Secretary of Defense accepted the invitation to become a co-chair of this working group in August of 2018, joining the Attorney General, the DNI, the Secretary of State, Secretary of Treasury, and Secretary of Homeland Security. And so these people, the military, is going to be directly involved in like countering the illicit threat networks of the transnational criminal organizations. Like it's all in here. And they talk about the resources of this from the framework under the authority, direction, and control of the Assistant Secretary of Defense for Spec Ops and Low Intensity Conflict. Talk about that multiple times. Yeah, so Trump had this all laid out years ago, and he's like calling it out now, and the framework is all in place. This is military switch theory stuff. It's all the framework's all in place, and it's just gonna be the switch is gonna be flipped as soon as we get in there.
Do you guys remember? I mean, that's an awesome link there, and on that line of thinking with the U.S. military, relatively recently, like a year ago. Maybe it was 2, but there was a joint operation between U.S. Special Forces and Mexican Special Forces that fucking wiped out a key stronghold of one of the cartels that was up in northern Mexico. It was a joint operation. Maybe somebody in chat will know what it was, but there was like a firefight where I think the troops that we were told engaged were the Mexican troops. But apparently it was they were using U.S. intel. So that kind of also, like that feels Devo as well, where you've got U.S. intelligence that is helping Mexico. And it also even goes all the way back from a normie lens, from a normie framing to Trump talking about Mexico funding the wall, Mexico building the wall. He's talking about more than the wall. He's saying, like, you guys, we're going to help you, but you guys have to go to war with these cartels as well.
Are you talking about when the president of Mexico invited U.S. forces, special forces, to train their troops? Because that began happening last June.
Okay, that's interesting. There was a firefight, and I want to say it was after that, but maybe it was before it.
Okay.
June 2023?
Hey, Bernie Bright, maybe you remember this?
This year.
Okay.
Wasn't there stories of cartel members coming over with, and these could be totally debunked, but they were coming over with weaponry that we sent to Ukraine?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Because that's an interesting anecdote too, because if we were giving our weapons to Ukraine and Ukraine then is turning around and giving it to the cartels or selling to the cartels or whatever, and that's coming up, that involves them in the mix too, the whole Ukraine thing, which
Right.
some sovereign alliance connections there as well.
Well, that goes along with the stuff Kyle posted in our stream chat.
Yeah, just pull it up on your screen now.
Of the Kyle, you should show your the Nazi thing in particular, because to me, again, the executive orders that John always references and Trump's public statements when he's talking about cartels, there's a reason this framing is so broad. It's direct and yet it's very broad. That's a wide net to cast, criminals in, right? Insurgents, threats to the United States.
Okay.
Because it turns out they're all the same thing, right? They're just different arms of the same thing.
Yeah, what he's talking about is that when he mentioned that Swiss bank stuff, it reminded me that I covered it last December when that news broke. It was what they found was Swiss bank got caught with over $5.6 billion hidden in almost 1,700 hidden accounts. They were secret bank accounts that they were hiding. And when they got into these things, they found a whole lot of illegal activity. And then Credit Suisse was forced to reinstate a famous Nazi hunter, Neil Barofsky, who has a history and that he specializes in finding Nazi-linked bank accounts. So there's this huge suspicion that a ton of these hidden bank accounts are actually related to Nazis and them hiding some of their profiteering from World War II and stuff like that.
Much of which is in South America.
Bunch of that is in South America. Then the background on that I was sharing with them is that it was discovered that Credit Suisse had a list of some 12,000 Nazi party members and affiliates.
Jeez.
Yeah, and we're talking about over $1 billion, 1.25 billion. They've been caught. Now, the other thing is that Swiss private bank, also known as Banca Pictet, I think, or Pictet, they admitted to DOJ to conspiring to hide these assets and hide offshore accounts going all the way back to 2008. So that one turned out to be 5.6 billion is what it's that one right there. So that's 5.6 billion for those. But then there's this whole other set that is Nazi secret bank accounts that they were busted with. So all of this stuff is just more and more catching international money launderers, catching secret bank accounts. Now, the secret bank account thing, even though like they're really focusing on the Nazi angle, which is of course a buzzword that's going to get a lot of attention, I don't think they're all Nazi related. I think we're going to find out that there's some really powerful people who had secret bank accounts, like names that royalty, powerful people in government, in business that had secret bank accounts that the Swiss protect. And this is just one. Like, this is all one news story about this one bank, and also, by the way, this is SDNY. Again, another time that U.S. Attorney Damian Williams showcases that he's the best U.S. attorney. I hope Trump picks him for Attorney General. The libs would hate it.
Would pick who?
Damian Williams, the current SDNY U.S. Attorney. I think that would be the absolute best pick. I think it'd be very shrewd. Anyway. But there's a bunch of others. If you go to Justice website and start looking, justice.gov, and start looking for some of the stuff that's been going on with banks, you'll find a bunch of bank indictments over the past 5 to 7 years. And a lot of it has to do with hidden accounts, money laundering, things like that. So not reporting accounts, not reporting things that are suspicious, things like that.
I've got a couple just interesting little shot chaser things that might point to some of the coordination we're talking about. If you want to share my screen, John, this is what Kyle brought up a few minutes ago. U.S. troops training in Juarez, Chihuahua, U.S.-Mexico military disaster exercises. They mentioned cartels in here, right? So they're training with U.S. Special Forces. That was June 2024. Then, you guys might remember this, longtime leader of powerful Mexico cartel pleads not guilty to drug trafficking and murder charges in New York. This arrest was in July. Ishmael El Mayo Zambada, powerful
El
leader
Mayo,
of Mexico's
yeah,
Sinaloa cartel. So he was arrested by the U.S., right? So we've got U.S. Special Forces training Mexican forces. We've then got the U.S. arresting the Sinaloa cartel leader. Then this I see as a little bit of kayfabe personally. Could be wrong. Mexican presidents blaming the U.S. for cartel killings as violence surges in Sinaloa. There's not a lot of war going on down there. And he's talking about how it's joint military exercises. He says, we're now facing instability and clashes. The American government made the decision. He's talking about unilateral decisions being made by the U.S. But this just happened this past week. 19 suspected members of Sinaloa cartel killed in shootout with troops in Mexico. This is part of the joint exercises. This is what a lot of U.S. Special Forces have been training them on, is fighting against these cartels. And this isn't the specific shootout I was thinking of, but there was one earlier in the year or last year where, according to the reporting, it was a very powerful outfit of cartel, Sinaloa soldiers, essentially. And they were wiped out to the tune of 0 casualties on the Mexican side, 30-something casualties on the cartel side. Precision just wipeout. And that just hasn't been happening when Mexican forces are clashing with cartel forces over the last couple of decades. Seems like it might have something to do with these partnerships with U.S. Special Forces.
Guys, somebody in the chat said something pretty interesting. I think we should look at it. And it's totally off topic, but it's very on devolution topic. Only if you guys are down.
Down.
No.
What? And that's why I'm sure what you said was great, Bernie Bright, and I mean no offense, but I didn't listen to a single word of it because I was
Mexicans are killing lots of cartel people after being trained by special forces.
Trump today made a comment about let me see if I can find the quote. It was something along the lines of he's talking about the wall, but he said Mexico paid for it and they're still paying for it. It was something like that. That's kind of
that is interesting.
If you're thinking, they're putting up a wall, fighting the cartel, and they're still doing it in a sense. But maybe that's a stretch.
I thought you were actually going to reference, I was kind of going to take that as a double meaning. They're paying for it as in you've got to fight your own cartel battles because you enabled this for a long time. You're going to fight which actually then frames the Mexican president's statement about the U.S. is causing this battle. Because they're under a lot of political pressure right now in Mexico because they're people this is a war that's breaking out. People are dying. But it could be that they got that ultimatum from Trump, you better clean up your backyard. We'll help you, but we're not going to send the U.S. Army down there. Maybe we'll send some special forces down there to help you. But that's probably where it ends. You're not going to be spending U.S. blood in Mexico.
Yeah. All right. And let me show you this article here. This man, I don't know if we'll read the whole thing, but we just might, because it is fairly interesting and very devolution-y, but it is kind of long. And so thank you to Blasted Genetics in the chat who sent this over. And maybe you guys have seen this, but I haven't seen anybody talking about it, so I doubt it. It's from Time Magazine from October 15th. And it says, Doomsday and Democracy, former Trump aides warn of secret presidential crisis powers. This is very similar to the stories they were running leading up to just during COVID and leading up to that election. Mm-hmm. But check this out. Locked away in a classified safe on the White House grounds is a stack of papers crafted over decades with the hope that no one would ever use them. It lists the extraordinary powers the president may be authorized to use in the event of a nuclear attack or other massive catastrophe. Among the select few who have been granted access to the nation's most closely held secrets, the pages are known as Presidential Emergency Action Documents, or Peds. Some simply call it the Doomsday Book. Wait till you hear who's the source for this story, by the way. Over the decades, we don't need to get into that too much.
Is it Brennan?
No. Right here. Now, some former Trump advisors are raising the alarm about the dangers of Trump having access to the Doomsday Book in a second term. The former officials, which include Mark Harvey, who oversaw the Doomsday Book while on Trump's National Security Council. I don't think he oversaw the book. He might have saw the DHS's portion of the book, those specific Peds, but I don't think he would have overseen the entire book. It's very few who actually do that. And then also Miles Taylor. He was you remember Miles Taylor? What did he do again? He was the he was the anonymous source for a couple of those stories, like in the middle of Trump's term. Remember him?
The unnamed source close to the situation?
I think look him up. Look up Miles Taylor. You'll know who I'm talking about. He was former chief of staff for Trump's Department of Homeland Security. They worry that Trump would use the powers in situations that fall far short of the crises they were drafted to address. Trump has a history of testing the limits of presidential powers, and in a second term would be free of many of the guardrails that restricted his first one. Laughable. The Supreme Court ruled.
Hey, that's the exact same line that's been used in about 3 or 4 different pieces that I think are signal from like Norm Eisen and Molly Ball, like all those types of people. Like that's that line right there. They're really pushing that the SCOTUS removed some of the guardrails that reined in Trump previously.
Well, this is why I think this article is a little signal here too, is because, again, I think they know what Trump did, and to an extent, like they may not know exactly. I think they know it's in the Peds, and now they're talking about it and why it's a concern. But wait, they actually mentioned continuity of government here, so just hold on. Supreme Court ruled in July that presidents have partial immunity for official actions. Trump's senior advisors have a plan to purge the federal service of people unwilling to carry out his orders. He's going to be surrounded by a set of people that would say, you have the power to do this, says Harvey. Frankly, if he says yes, and there are people that go do it, what's to stop him? But to use these powers, a president is expected to have a genuine emergency that justifies their use, says the 2 former White House lawyers familiar with the draft documents. The draft orders in the Doomsday Book are written for truly extraordinary situations that have debilitated the federal government or Congress and require the president to ensure the continuity of government, according to the former White House lawyers. If a president overstated the crisis, the order could be struck down in court. Are they like threatening him here? Threatening him with...
By the way, the Miles Taylor guy, were you referencing that he was the source for the infamous New York Times resistance piece?
Yep, that's it. I gotta go check my kids. I think I heard him, but I'm not sure. So I'll be right back.
The guy John mentioned, just for anybody, I mean, I'm sure people remember, I'm part of the resistance inside the Trump administration 2018 super infamous resistance piece.
Do you have control of it? Do you want to wait for him, or you want to keep reading this?
I don't have control of it. We've lost control.
No control.
We can just say stuff though. U.S. states. I'm still looking at cartel stuff, of course.
It seems like a pretty good fine.
Presidential crisis. I can't believe we didn't see this. So strange.
It's not like there's anything else happening.
Doomsday and democracy. Secret presidential crisis powers.
Time also has their number 1 article right now is about how the Electoral College works, which I said, was it last DPH or the one before? I was like, they're all going to switch to attacking the Electoral College.
Kyle, did you see
and here they are.
Politico piece?
No.
October 29th, yesterday? Here, I'll send it in the
chat
since we don't have control. Well, that I didn't see the timepiece you just referenced, but that's obvious coordination. Politico put out a whole hit piece yesterday, how to finally abolish the Electoral College.
There it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
So they're gonna, one of their angles of attack is giving conceding the popular vote, but saying that Trump lost the Electoral College to try to get MAGA on board with abolishing it. That's what the Politico piece lays out.
Just reading through this, they're still pushing for more insight into the orders. Paul requested the White House. Who? Rand Paul requested the White House to let him read the Peds in a classified setting, but was denied.
It's because Rand Paul was reading the Devo series. He was like, "Where are these things?"
They're locked in the skiff.
So Rand is on the outside of the skiff.
Some of the draft orders have blank spaces for filling in details like the date and circumstances for a power to be used, those people said. White House officials sometimes refer to them during classified tabletop exercise, acting on how the government would respond in an overwhelming disaster. Yeah, man, this is interesting. When Trump has signaled support for military tribunals for political enemies like Liz Cheney, he undermines the confidence Americans have in the rule of law, says H.R. McMaster. Fuck you, man.
McMaster.
Yeah, this is interesting. Like, to me, like, these people writing this article this close to the election, they have no idea what's in these Peds. They've tried so many times to get after them, and they can't. It's fascinating.
I wonder why Peds are on their mind, though. What puts them on their mind right now? Are they? I mean, I don't automatically think it might have to do with Trump's Peds. It might have to do with them trying to get Biden to write some Peds that would be advantageous to them right now, and him not doing it,
and
maybe because he can't,
not having access. Yeah,
and so maybe their prompting for it isn't that they're suspecting Trump. Their prompting is, why isn't Biden using this incredible power that he's supposed to have? Because we've seen a lot of articles like that, where this whole presidency, we've seen them ask, why isn't Biden doing this? Why isn't he using his power to do this? And it's like, maybe he's on the beach because he's running out of things to do.
And because he's not actually real president.
He's got there's an asterisk by his name.
That was actually one of the things when I posted yesterday, I posted about how, like, you know, I don't really get upset about the garbage comment because, like, we've called them way worse things. And some of the responses were, well, he's the president and he can't. And I was like, no, he's not. Like, not really. You know, it's just funny. He totally took the wind out of commas. No, not for a gay meme. Did you just make that up?
Yeah.
Man.
It's not as good as my store true no meme.
You should change this real quick and say when you just make a new meme and nobody finds it funny.
Kyle chuckled a little bit.
Yeah.
In solidarity. My store traverse card was funny.
Your what?
It was also like 8 layers deep.
What was it?
Undefected one night, I whipped up a store traverse card because Kyle was getting storched.
To be honest, you can get a laugh out of me just about at any mention of a skiff, because for so long we were made fun of for thinking Trump had a skiff, and then the Docs case actually proved that he had a skiff, and then it was really funny because Jack Smith and DOJ had to go and build a new skiff because they didn't want the embarrassment of giving Trump classified documents to review in his own skiff at Mar-a-Lago, from which they had just removed classified documents and accused him of committing crimes by having him there in that same location. So they had to build a new skiff in some other location near Mar-a-Lago so that he and his team could go and review the classified documents and filings in his case, which was, subsequently thrown out. And it was hilarious to me, and it still is.
That's funny.
But also a good attempt at a meme there, BB.
Yeah, it is what it is. Last thing on the cartels, if you want to share this, John.
If you can keep it short, because I'm like dying. I need to get to the rants.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Have you seen this letter?
Do you know what short means? Oh yeah.
Joint statement from Mexico and U.S. on the implementation of U.S.-Mexico bicentennial framework for security, public health, and safe communities. But it talks all about Obrador, Mexico and U.S. federal government, special working group, coordination.
Can you search threat? Let me see what it is. Threat.
No.
Not in there. What's the working group they're talking about?
Special working group will improve coordination among Mexico's federal government entities to support the investigation and arrest of individuals involved in the production of fentanyl, trafficking of fentanyl, and this is what TD Bank got bagged for. That's in the DOJ statements.
Interesting.
I was trying to see if there's
Is there anything with military?
I was looking for that. No.
This reads similar to Trump's threat working group thing that he's doing.
Yeah. U.S. and Mexico committed to continue joint work to dismantle the fentanyl supply chain and the Sinaloa cartel on both sides of the border.
That
Now, this is 2023. Match this with all the articles I just showed you in 2024 of Sinaloa cartel members getting absolutely blitzed.
I was going to say
And a
that
cartel
that,
leader. Go.
that DOJ operation that's mentioned, Operation Southbound, was still active as of last summer. There's stuff coming out about it from last summer.
A whole of government approach to disrupt firearms trafficking. Department of Homeland Security, law enforcement.
They've been busting gun trafficking, it looks like. 5 arrested for trafficking military-grade firearms to Mexican drug cartels.
They've got 3 operations named here: Operation Desert Lightning and Operation Without a Trace.
So that
Desert
one's
Lightning,
DHS.
Yeah.
DHS does both of those.
None of these are
DOJ
military.
is Southbound. Okay.
It's interesting.
There's an indictment from 24th, of this year, of March of 2024. So it's still active.
Awesome. Okay, guys, I'm gonna get to the rants here. Sorry for cutting it short. This is 5 days in a row now of today we've only gone 2 hours, so this will be the shortest one probably. But anyway, True Teller 86. I had to send a day job email to a California customer today. Phonetically, it was fuck Google something. California is not as blue as it used to be. Interesting. Boomer 63, Kamala's big ellipse speech got no attention at all. Yeah, did you guys catch anything on that?
Just that there was nothing to it.
The one thing I saw was she was playing the YMCA at the intro of it or something. That's it. Oh my God. Sing with the Flowers. Hey guys, I think the garbage truck and yellow vest were very cathartic. Moments of joy in a wearing battle.
I mean, that is Trump's demeanor is super chill.
Mm-hmm. Sure is. I'd be fish. When Biden started talking about Puerto Rico, about garbage, it seemed like Biden started to say, where I'm then he switched his directive. Did I hear it wrong? I don't remember that, so
yeah,
I don't know. Moomy's mom, Frenchie. Trump team reached out to the Brown County Republican Party at 2:30 p.m. and we delivered the truck. Oh, that's awesome. They're talking about the garbage truck. That's sweet.
Oh,
nice.
Deirdre Hart Murphy. Video of 2017 Trump was sworn in, and Michelle's great disrespect with Melania's gift showed there would be no peaceful transfer of power. Today, finally, Trump calls Obama divisive. What took so long? I'm pretty sure he's called him divisive before.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. We've been talking about the Tiffany's box quite a bit in the last few days.
And I would definitely say it was the spine on the campaign, not Michelle's disrespect over the Tiffany gift that was showing there would be no peaceful transfer of power. But I get what you're saying. Go with 77. Keep it real. Thank you. Diane, $5, or just says 5, and it's $5 rant. So thank you. Tess Ved, how do y'all feel about the video of Vivek taking out actual trash with an actual trash truck? I feel it's him just trying to say he's like Trump. It has no effect on anything. I'm not a fan.
Didn't see it.
I haven't seen it either, but not a huge fan of his either.
Yeah.
He's trying very hard to attach himself to Trump, though. Trump's kind of letting him, so we'll see. GP Shea, what is the difference between humans and sharks? All the great ones are white.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Although
Racism.
the difference doesn't make sense there.
Yeah. Would it be funnier if it was? What's the the same? Anyway.
I don't know what's going to make me more racist, so I just will keep that in.
Yeah, we'll let GP Shea be the racist one here. Truth Teller 86. We need electronic voting on the blockchain, period. Name, address, date of birth, state-issued driver's license, or ID number. Done deal. No duplicates. Instantly verified and non-hackable.
Now that's racist.
And Chris
Voter
made a
ID.
point Saturday that it should all be public information. Like, people should know who votes for who. Like I was thinking today, after I voted and came home, I was like, I have no way of going through and checking if my vote actually went for what I voted for. Like I should be able to go online right now and see, like maybe I get a code or something, type it in and be like, this is your vote and this is everything you voted for. I should be able to verify
a private public key.
Maybe. But we
like,
can't trust
yeah,
them with
you can-
that either. Did you see that Colorado Secretary of State? They put all of their passwords online on accident, all their BIOS passwords.
Yeah.
Crazy. Anyway, sorry.
Colorado is such a mess.
In Virginia, we can look our vote up.
You can?
Now, yeah. Now, how much we trust what it says, I don't know, but you can look it up.
What do you mean? What does it show you? Just that you voted?
Yeah, it just shows you that you voted and the date you voted and like all that. You can't like look at your ballot and see like you can't like look up an image of it or something. At least last time I looked at it, you couldn't. But you can. There is an online registry or portal or whatever that shows, okay, on this date you showed up at this location, you cast a ballot.
But it doesn't tell you.
And we switched it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not.
Yeah.
It's a step in the right direction. I'll say that. I would like it if it like showed you an image of your ballot, like
Yeah,
it
and gave
showed
you
the
a key
scanned
so you could
image or
see it.
something.
Yeah.
QR code, whatever. I would like that, but
yeah.
Okay.
JCQ17. I've noticed Donald J. Trump is getting very orange again. Doesn't look like natural tan. Any thoughts on why he does this? Yeah, him and Bannon must have got a spray tan together or something. He was dark as hell when he got out of prison.
Yeah, he was working out in the yard.
Yeah, he didn't look much skinnier, so I don't know how much working out in the yard he was doing, but he was in the yard. Joel Peter Fan, remember being a poll watcher has nothing to do with strip clubs. It's a very valid point. Jason G82, Kamala wins and then does an Australian breakdancer skit. The YMCA comes in with Trump as a garbage man and Vance as a police officer. They announced this was a sting test of the electoral system.
I believe it.
It's probably the most likely scenario. Yeah. CanCon, what the hell, man? Haven't seen you in a while. How's it going? It's more difficult to steal the in-person election day vote because of voter ID and poll pad check-ins, among other things. They have exposed part of the in-person fix in Michigan, as was revealed today. So you're saying it's more difficult to steal in person, but they literally just did it in Michigan today.
Yeah, I mean, for me, this always comes back to, even when we talk about paper ballots, it comes down to trust or lack thereof in machines, because ultimately all of your votes are not being hand counted. They are being turned into a digital representation of the ballot. They're all proxy votes. They could be accurate. They could be entirely inverted. It would not be hard to do at all. One line of code in an election machine runs on an algorithm and just spits out whatever vote it wants. So when they talk about same day and paper ballots, that would imply no machines are involved in any part of the process.
Yeah, I go back to it was one of Trump's quotes at a rally when he's talking about they just take blank ballots and they're sticking them in there or whatever. And to me, like him saying that, and plus now couple that with what he recently said about the machines, like I don't know, they can just literally like make up whatever numbers they need to. But who knows? But anyway, speaking of elections, I almost forgot about this earlier. First of all, hit that thumbs up. But second of all, our election day coverage is coming up next Tuesday, starting at 1 p.m. Eastern. We got a great lineup. We have over like 20 plus people-ish that'll hopefully, by the time we get everything done, joining. That's in addition to our regular hosts who want to join the stream at some point. So, Kyle, if you haven't yet, make sure you reach out to Ash to get on the schedule. But we got Chris Pavlovsky, General Flynn, Patrick Byrne, Eddie Bravo, Mike Lindell, Seth Keschel. I think Mark Fincham's going to be on at some point. Clay Parikh, like a bunch of election names. Should be a good time. Should be fun. Should be educational. Should be an interesting day, and hopefully a good day for Trump and his supporters. So us garbage people. But yeah, join us for that and tell your friends and family. Snowcat operator, I'm wearing my orange vest into the voting booth November 5th. Love it. The American Spotlight says Steve Bannon has mentioned that Trump has two massive teams. One is to aid him in winning the election. The other team is a group of lawyers with the goal of helping him keep it.
Yeah, I think that's very true.
Yeah. Me and Ash, when we were watching or waiting for Trump to come out yesterday for the Mar-a-Lago press conference, we were listening to Bannon on his first broadcast back, and he had Mike Davis on. And it was honestly a little weird, like how much Mike Davis is like, well, they have Mark Elias, so there's not much we can do, but we'll try our best. Like, that was literally the shit he was saying. It was insane.
Surprising from Mike Davis.
Yeah, me and Ash were like, is he saying like they can't beat Mark Elias? Like, that's what he was saying. It was nuts. Blizz Lady, $50. Thank you. Grateful for Badlands. I've learned so much. God blessings in favor to you. Thank you.
I first thought it meant flavor, and I was like, I'll take that too, but thanks either way.
Flavor Flav. Whatever.
God's flavor.
Havoc 92. Post a link. Can you grab that, Burning Bright?
Oh, it's a Young Turks thing.
Anna Kasparian of TYT, surprising again. Interesting. Going after the left over the Biden's garbage name calling.
I don't like current version Anna Kasparian. I never liked any version of her, but
not familiar with her. And she's taking heat for it. It's a long clip.
2 full minutes.
We can listen like 30 seconds from them.
Can we just please not provide cover for our leaders when they make mistakes like this? That was a terrible mistake that Biden made. It should not be justified. Again, if you're a private citizen and you have your personal views about the Republican electorate, that's on you and that's your business. You have not taken an oath to represent the country. You're not the president of the United States. And I don't know.
You're muted.
I said, that's good. And neither is Joe Biden. And I said, boom. Truth Teller 86. Never forget Ron Jones from PA 2008. Long lines. I've decided to come here and vote a couple times. CNN, I think that's against the law, but that's okay. Interesting. 1027JS. Here's my tribute to TPH. Thank you, Joe. There's a tribute every show I do. It's crazy. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Phil Scarborough, we're about to witness the largest corruption sting in history. I caught them all. Trump will win. They'll try to steal it. Politicians involved will be exposed and arrested. Globally, see you in DC 120. I hope I don't have my kids that day because I would love to be there. Go with 77, or sorry, Vegas Deplorable 26. The Puerto Rico joke should have brought attention to the growing garbage issue in Puerto Rico. The money that was sent to clean up was squandered by corrupt polls, and I hear it's pretty bad now. I mentioned that earlier.
Well, if our boy Blue is doing his job, he may be signaling that as well.
Go with 77. Fear not. Thank you. Papa DB1. What about Camel Toe certifying the electorates?
I was talking about that a couple weeks ago. Like the ultimate irony that we don't talk about because there's so many other things to talk about is just going back to what we said years ago, that the Pence stuff and the precedent he set. But even leaving that aside, just the narrative value of watching Kamala Harris certify the Donald Trump election, I mean, that's going to be like the greatest moment in political history.
Brent Dwayne K, it's nice to see you, man. I heard he's going to be at Myrtle Beach, so we'll see you there too. Bottom line, John's fears, I never said I was afraid, because I'm not. They will successfully steal it for Kamala are unfounded. They will try, and it will look like Kamala's last 48 hours. Dwayne, I bet if I went back in time, I could find you saying the same exact thing about what happened in 2020. So you just can't say that it's impossible, because it's not impossible. You never know. Nobody knows how this is going to play out, but we're all hopeful. True Deplorable. I feel for you, John. 12-hour Allegra D from behind farm counter. Dayquil every 4 hours, and budesonide nose spray clears up cruddy symptoms. Besides taking quercetin, vitamin B, and ivermectin, feel better. Thank you. Yeah, I got stuff there. What?
Or just the advice. Like, it'll be so different. There'll be one person that's like, take these 5 things, and it's like, roll yourself in some mulch, like climb a tree, and do a swan dive or something.
Looking for one of
but
those.
Thank you.
Yeah, I gotta be careful with what I take though, because my kids are here, and like I'm sensitive to like the nighttime stuff. So like if I take a NyQuil, I won't wake up in the middle of the night, like to my kids, and so I obviously can't do that. But anyway, JB Rawl, hey Kyle, MBB, good to see you. Fuck you, JB Rawl. What about me?
Thank you, JB.
Alternative 94, Dominion back in the narrative. There's a link to Nick Sordor. Dirk McGurk and hey, John, the next shot of NyQuil is on me. Oh, man, that's generous of you, man. Appreciate it. Darylyn 10, Patel Patriot, up your vitamin D to 20,000 units for 4 days. You need zinc to make ivermectin more effective. Look up FLCC guidelines for other recommendations. Just like you said, man. But thank you.
It's like if you get, we're streaming till 3. No, we do appreciate it, but it's just funny where it's like we stream till like 3 in the morning, work 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, and it's just like, man, you like you must be living your life so wrong. The fact that you've got the sniffles right now, obviously your vitamin D intake sucks. You haven't been ivermectining. Like,
I take my ivermectin. It's my kids, man. Those things when they're in school, those kids, they're freaking like.
Those things.
Kids have a lot of germs.
Lots
they
of
find germs. They gather germs. They bring germs home, and they spread them around everything you own.
Super spreaders.
Yeah. Yep. Like literally my dog coughing in my face. I'm like trying to teach a kid. Remember, this is like the 600,000th time I've told you in the last 24 hours that you need to cover your mouth when you cough. And she's like this, and then like right in my face. Like doesn't even cover anything. Just it's terrible.
If Patrick was there, he would defend her and say that you can't get sick from that, John.
Yeah, she's not actually sick.
You're actually imagining that you're sick right now.
Yeah. Let's see what other advice we got here. Ed Benson, Credit Suisse was instrumental in Obamacare, so you are missing a huge part of it. And you just spelled part
you said
wrong.
that they were a criminal organization, so it's kind of like there's lots of crimes they were criming around about.
There's only so much we can talk about in one show. Brew W, did Biden deliberately try to hurt Kamala's campaign once again with the garbage comment? Praying for good health for all three of you gentlemen.
Yes, he did.
He also hurt Jack Smith's case by saying that we got to lock Trump up so he doesn't win the election, which Trump's team immediately put into a filing. Like, by the way,
it's amazing. Blasted Genetic.
He is the current fake president still. Nobody seems to remember.
Yeah.
Nobody seems to talk about him unless he makes a mistake. Blasted Genetics. Hey, John, have you seen the Time article about the Peds 2 weeks ago? They're acting like Trump didn't know about them, but in the second term, he could use them. Yeah, we just went over that. But thank you for sending that over. That was certainly interesting. Truth-Teller 86. Janitor, I didn't know gay dudes like tiger paintings. Donald Trump. Hey, you crossed the line. I've killed people for less. And I believe he's referring to this one.
I didn't know gay dudes like tiger paintings.
Not that one. Stand by, but thank you for the rant, man. Star Writers. Alpha had Josh Reed as guest 2 days ago. I take Josh with a grain of salt, as well as Ivan Ranklin, but I thought it was worth considering. Be prepared for anything. Yes, be prepared for anything. Blasted Genetics sends a link to the Time article. Thanks again for that. Dirk McGurkin, how does all this war against the cartel square with the recently elected president with obvious Mossad connections? Which
I don't know what he's talking about.
Which president? If you want to clarify, Dorcas, send me a DM, man. Truth-Teller 86, what's the DPH speculation on Trump Johnson's secret? No idea. We talked about that on Saturday, actually.
Probably a new package, one of their new Johnson's packages, maybe. They're always passing packages around.
Nice sized ones, too. Samantha 321, as a banker, we are federally law required to report all large transactions. Anything over $10,000, if I'm remembering correctly.
They also will, TD Bank, which my wife has still not moved away from yet, interrogated us for making a withdrawal of like $2,000 months ago. They're like, what are you doing with this money? It's like, and then I said, none of your fucking business. And of course,
you did not say none of your fucking business.
I did say it was none of her business too.
Did you say fucking business or just business?
I don't know. You have to ask.
Okay.
This is right.
Okay. That's what I thought.
I did say it was none of your business.
Yeah, but you didn't say none of your fucking business, which totally changes the context and the tone and everything. It makes you sound way weaker. And that was my point. That's just I want to make sure. And I accomplished it, so. But that is weird and bullshit.
Yeah.
Okay, well, moving on. Salmontra ODA, Joe Biden tried to eat a baby. Did you guys see that?
Yeah. It's really...
No, what?
You didn't see that?
Oh, it's so funny.
Kyle, can you pull that up? I'm going to keep reading. I'm about to, like, pass out. Dirk McGurkin.
So good, dude.
Wait, AOC is pregnant? If true, you know what that means. Funds and buns. Nice. I have not heard that rumor. Prevost 13. In South Carolina, we need to get Patrick to go into the ocean at night in his swim trunks and have BB in a shark suit swimming toward him without Patrick knowing it. Good show, guys. Yeah, we'll try to.
Hey, BB, are you ready? Just look at the headline.
Oh my god.
It's so good, dude. I love it.
She's like, please do not.
We're not gonna get headlines like this anymore, guys.
I know.
This is one of
the
last
first thing I think of is
Biden
the emails that you were bringing up a couple of weeks ago, Kyle. Sacrificing a baby chicken in the yard to Moloch. Maybe Biden thought he was at one of Podesta's parties.
It's coming up for Thanksgiving, I'm sure. Joey Regs, thanks to all Badlands members for taking me off the ledge the last few years. I have a feeling I'm going to need you again next week. Hoping to meet y'all at my first GARP in South Carolina. GARP.
We're going to be at GARP, but I hope GARP is a lot of fun too.
You probably won't meet us there, though. Buster Lou, for unity to take place in this country, the cheat must be revealed in a big way, quickly, during, after this election. Otherwise, it's more finger pointing and calling each other Nazis ad nauseum, in my honest opinion. That's a good point, too. So much for ODA. Today, Viva Frey was pontificating / joking that Biden will resign after the election as a final FU to Kamala. Talked about that before as well. Dirk McGurkin, president of Mexico.
Viva Frey every Sunday night, so.
Oh, president of Mexico has a president with Mossad connections. That's who he's referring to earlier.
I don't know.
Julie Alberta 3 says, I Ubered someone from Space Force today. Told me they absolutely have the ability to monitor the elections. That's juicy. Interesting. I like that. Thank you. And then PJW, you missed my rant early on. And I got all the rants on the screen, so I don't know if
you guys send a rant over like hours before the show, it'll clear out of the system. So just
even
in
like
case,
5 minutes,
do it
10 minutes before the show. I wouldn't do it till.
I wouldn't send it until the show starts.
Yeah, because it'll clear that stuff out in case you did it at that time. Because your rant isn't here.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man, but thank you. And that's everything, guys. So, man, that was a fun show.
We've actually got a couple boosts came over last minute. Bright Eyes 1987 sent $50 over and said, I totally believe in devolution and most of the things you guys do, but do you ever get nervous or anxious about the election or coming events? Sometimes I find myself feeling a little anxious, even though I really don't think I need to. Yeah, I would say so. Less than I ever used to, but I mean, it makes sense.
I don't, because it's just news media making you anxious. It's just the programming from the Matrix trying to get you worried. And over a timeline, it's things just keep getting better in pretty much every category. So I
don't either. I don't either at all. I'm very confident in my research stuff we've talked about that Trump did some things before he left office. So however this gets resolved, I know it's going to get resolved. I just don't know how, Yeah. But I'm
Dog
happy.
I know how. We win, they lose. That's how.
And I'm saying like how it gets to there. Like that's
right.
Yeah.
Mad Dog 3852 sent out $75 over 2 boosts. I asked my son to join me at Gart Myrtle Beach. He asked if I wanted to be traveling after the election if things are chaotic. I told him after 3.5 years of battling through this with you all from Badlands, there's no place I would rather be. Then he said, I'm headed to Gart and asked my son. Oh, sent the same rant boost twice. I don't know if you meant to do that, but either way. Yeah, well, it's a sellout. So obviously a lot of other Badlanders feel the same way, that no matter what happens next week, they want to be chilling with other Badlanders.
Yeah. We have a couple more boosts coming. Do you want to do that? I got to find something here.
Rants. Brew, Trump talked tonight about how nasty Michelle Obama has been to him. He laughed and said, oh, I can't wait. that's interesting. And then PJW, I did it after the show started. He sent, this is the item about Pennsylvania TV station during the F1 stuff showing test election results with Kamala up. So yeah, that was going viral. Just take their word for it though. They were just testing.
It happens every year. So like something like that happens every year.
Yeah.
Some small station.
I like seeing it go viral though, because anytime I see people being like this seems a little suspect. I don't think that's a bad thing. And then Dirk, NPR, 5 things to know about Mexico's first female president. Oh yeah, this is Scheinbaum, Mexico's 66th president. Yeah, she won in June. Yeah, I haven't looked a ton into her, but what I have seen looks a little concerning. But we'll just have to wait and find out.
Is that all of them?
It is.
All right. Sorry, I'm pulling something up here for our outro.
Oh, wait. Did we get... Lionheart sent $50 over. Hey, guys, I'm old enough to remember Baghdad Bob from the first Iraq War, who denied on live TV that the Americans were advancing while the Americans were advancing on the TV behind him. Chris Cuomo, anyone? Clown show rages on. God bless.
Funny. All right, everybody. Do us that favor. Hit that thumbs up. Stick with us all week. Got some great programs coming out. And then also next week, our election coverage. Make sure you tell your friends and family to expose them to Badlands for the first time. We're going to try to make it fun. I mean, I can't deny I'm probably going to be a little biased towards Trump, slightly, but...
No, we're going to be fair and honest.
I mean, this is what we put as our election thumbnail photo, so kind of hard to... whatever. But it'll be fun. But thanks for tuning in, everybody. We're going to end it with Michael Moore's video 2016. Hope this plays. I just loaded it in, so catch y'all later.
I know a lot of people in Michigan that are planning to vote for Trump, and they don't necessarily like him that much, and they don't necessarily agree with him. They're not racist and rednecks, they're actually pretty decent people. And so I wanted to sort of, after talking to a number of them, I wanted to write this. And Donald Trump came to the Detroit Economic Club and stood there in front of the Ford Motor executives and said, if you close these factories as you're planning to do in Detroit and build them in Mexico, I'm going to put a 35% tariff on those cars when you send them back, and nobody's going to buy them. It was an amazing thing to see. No politician, Republican or Democrat, had ever said anything like that to these executives. And it was music to the ears of people in Michigan and Ohio and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, the Brexit states. You live here in Ohio, you know what I'm talking about. Whether Trump means it or not is kind of irrelevant, because he's saying the things to people who are hurting. And it's why every beaten down, nameless, forgotten working stiff who used to be part of what was called the middle class loves Trump. He is the human Molotov cocktail that they've been waiting for. The human hand grenade that they can legally throw into the system that stole their lives from them. And on November 8th, Election Day, although they lost their jobs, although they've been foreclosed on by the bank, next came the divorce, and now the wife and kids are gone, the car's been repoed, they haven't had a real vacation in years, they're stuck with the shitty Obamacare bronze plan where you can't even get a fucking Percocet. They've essentially lost everything they had, except one thing. The one thing that doesn't cost them a cent and is guaranteed to them by the American Constitution, the right to vote. They might be penniless, they might be homeless, they might be fucked over and fucked up. It doesn't matter, because it's equalized on that day. A millionaire has the same number of votes as the person without a job. One. And there's more of the former middle class than there are in the millionaire class. So on November 8th, the dispossessed will walk into the voting booth, be handed a ballot, close the curtain, and take that lever, or felt pen or touchscreen, and put a big fucking X in the box by the name of the man who has threatened to upend and overturn the very system that has ruined their lives. Donald J. Trump. They see that the elites who ruined their lives hate Trump. Corporate America hates Trump. Wall Street hates Trump. The career politicians hate Trump. The media hates Trump after they loved him and created him and now hate him. Thank you, media. The enemy of my enemy is who I'm voting for on November 8th. Yes, on November 8th, you, Joe Blow, Steve Blow, Bob Blow, Billy Bob Blow, all the blows get to go and blow up the whole goddamn system because it's your right. Trump's election is going to be the biggest fuck you ever recorded in human history. And it will feel good.